Chapter 4608. On the other hand, the group of people around Lin Yi was a rare spectacle. Although the guild manager didn't know whether to laugh or cry, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was a huge disparity in strength between Lin Yi and Ma Daoqiang. Otherwise, if the two nascent soul stage experts were to fight, his place would have been razed to the ground. It was all thanks to Lin Yi that he was able to escape this calamity. Wave after wave of people squeezed over to get close to them. Many of them were disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Normally, they would see each other all the time. Moreover, their senior brothers were all honest people. How could they be so thick-skinned as to reject them? They could only brace themselves and deal with them one by one. Only Lin Yi was happy and leisurely sipping on his spiritual tea. The guild manager was very tactful and gave him a pot of high-grade spiritual tea. He had kept this tea for many years, but he couldn't bear to drink it. This time, in order to befriend Lin Yi, he had spent a lot of money. Amidst the commotion, the crowded crowd suddenly parted to form a small path. At first, the people in front were still grumbling, but when they saw the people behind them, they immediately lowered their heads respectfully and made way for them quickly. Lin Yi was slightly surprised, but he immediately smiled. Among the crowd, little Curly Bear stepped on everyone's heads and climbed onto Lin Yi's body, riding on Lin Yi's neck excitedly. At the same time, a beautiful woman appeared in front of Lin. It was Shanghai Lena. Looking at this little senior sister who couldn't hide her excitement like little Curly Bear, Lin Yi couldn't help but be slightly dazed. After a year and a half, although Shanghai Lena was still as innocent as before, her figure and temperament had matured a bit. She was fresh and pure, with a hint of charm that made people blush unconsciously. Lin Yi had already seen all kinds of beauties, and all of his confidants were peerless beauties. However, when he saw Shangguan Laner this time, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This lass was really a natural beauty. She was already making people unable to control themselves. When she fully grew up in the future, every frown and smile of hers would be enough to seduce people's souls. Little junior brother, are you injured? Shanghai Laner did not have the slightest awareness of the femme fatale. Perhaps it was because she prayed for Lin Yi every day. After a year and a half, she did not have the slightest sense of alienation. Ignoring everyone's strange eyes, she hopped to Lin Yi's side. He even pushed the little Curly Bear to the side, and the master and pet each skillfully occupied one of Lin Yi's arms. No. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He couldn't help but ask, "How did you know I was here?" "Hee, Grandpa told me. He said that you were entangled by the guy who used horses as spears, so I came to see you." Shanghai Laner stuck out her tongue with a smile, and she was secretly proud of her achievement. If she hadn't asked Grandpa to tell her the news of Lin Yi as soon as possible last time, she wouldn't have been able to come so quickly this time. Pavilion Master Shangguan? Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. It was not strange that he attracted attention after coming back, but it was very thought-provoking that the news reached the ears of Shanghai Tianhua so quickly. It was really rare for him to be able to make the North Island, a big boss, pay so much attention to him. Little junior brother, you've been in the South Island for so long. What fun things have you encountered? Tell me quickly, I've never been to the South Island in my life. Are there spirit beasts everywhere? Have you seen other curly bears? Shanghai Laner couldn't wait to ask. Except for the North Island. She had been to the Middle Island and the West Island. The former was undoubtedly the center of the Heaven Stage Island, and the latter was the territory of her best friend Ningshu. But the South Island was different. That place was a troublesome place for human cultivators. It didn't matter to ordinary people, but if a top boss in the North Island like Shanghai Tianhua suddenly appeared in the waters of the South Continent, it would cause a big mess. It's a long story. I'll tell you slowly when we go back. Lin Yi smiled and called out to Lu Bianren, Ku Qian, and the others. Then, under the escort of a large group of people, he made his way back to Clear Cloud Pavilion. Theoretically, Lin Yi no longer had a residence in the Blue Cloud Pavilion. His original residence, number 1, had been occupied by Ma Weiqiang a long time ago. However, when Lin Yi heard this, he just smiled indifferently. Ma Weiqiang could occupy number 1 residence because he hadn't returned. Now that he was back, What could Ma Weiqiang do? Lin Yi immediately led everyone directly to number 1 residence. At the same time, he also sent someone to the Hong Chamber of Commerce to inform Hong Zhong. Then, they immediately prepared a banquet in number 1 residence. The group of people with Lin Yi's tag gathered together and laughed happily to welcome Lin. Other than that, Lin Yi didn't greet anyone else. According to the rules, he had been missing for so long, especially when Ma Weiqiang's knees were crippled as soon as he came back. No matter what, he had to report to the higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. However, Lin Yi didn't have this thought at all. Right now, he didn't have a good impression of these so-called higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. They actually supported Ma Weiqiang to occupy his residence. It was simply intolerable. If it was someone with a more explosive temper, they would definitely go to their door. However, Lin didn't have the leisure to do so. So, he simply chose to ignore it. Anyway, from today onwards, number 1 residence would be under his name. If there was any elder who was dissatisfied, he could ask him to come and talk to them face to face. He was afraid that these people wouldn't have the guts to do so. To be honest, before Lin Yi went to Nanzhou, he thought that those who could become an elder of the Blue Cloud Pavilion were not simple characters. However, things were different now. He could even kill a profound ascension practitioner in one hit. As for those so-called elders who were mostly at nascent soul, it would be a miracle if they held any weight in his eyes. Lin Yi and the others were busy preparing for the banquet in residence number 1. In comparison, Ma Weiqiang, who was the owner in name, was in a really bad situation. His knees had been crushed by Lin Yi's killing aura. Although it wasn't to the extent that he would become a cripple, it wasn't something that could be easily healed with the medical skills of the North Island Elixir Hall. Even if it was an optimistic estimate, it would take at least half a year for him to recover. Unless a doctor like Zhang Liju personally treated him, he would be a complete cripple for the next half a year. He really did live up to his own words, staying at home to recuperate all day without seeing the light of day. After getting treated at the Elixir Hall, Ma Weiqiang didn't stay here to recuperate. Chapter 4609. Ma Daiqiang was wrapped in thick bandages, and his 2 underlings carried him back to Blue Cloud Pavilion residence number 1. After all, the environment here was much better than the Hall of Alchemy, and it was more suitable for recuperation. However, when he saw residence number 1 was brightly lit, and he heard the sounds of laughter coming from inside, Ma Daiqiang's already miserable face turned even paler. He even wanted to occupy his own residence. Damn it, this bastard Lin Yi had gone too far. Brother Daiqiang, what should we do? The 2 underlings looked at Ma Daiqiang awkwardly. Listening to the voices of Lin Yi and the others, they didn't even dare to go within 100 feet, let alone enter the main door. Even Ma Daiqiang, with his strength, almost died without knowing why. If it were them, wouldn't they be looking for death? The 2 underlings were afraid, but Ma Daiqiang himself was even more afraid. He couldn't help but tremble when he thought of Lin Yi's name. Losing wasn't scary, but what was scary was not knowing how he lost, and how big was the difference in strength between them. Ma Daiqiang didn't dare to think deeper, and he didn't dare to face Lin Yi again. Although residence number 1 still belonged to him in name, he wouldn't dare to ask Lin Yi for it even if he was given 10,000 guts. He was arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. Bring me to Soaring Pavilion, I want to find Chong bro, hurry. Ma Daiqiang yelled hysterically. Under the stimulation of his anger, the wounds on his legs that hadn't healed started bleeding again, and he almost fainted from the pain, but he forced himself to hold on. He couldn't bear this anger even if he was beaten to death, he wasn't willing to accept it. The 2 lackeys did not dare to neglect and immediately carried the horse as a spear to the Soaring Sky Pavilion. They did not care that the sky was getting dark and knocked on the door in the middle of the night. They hurriedly carried the horse into Su Lingchong's residence. This place was the same as Blue Cloud Pavilion residence number 1, and it was also brightly lit. It wasn't just Su Lingchong himself. Meng Tong, Kong Mingming, and Zhong Pingliang were all present as well. Today was their usual meeting day. When they saw Ma Dongxiang's miserable appearance at the moment, Su Lingchong and others were instantly stunned. Ma Dongxiang had just told them in the morning that he was going to set off for the South Island. Why did he suddenly become so miserable? Brother Chong, I saw Lin. Ma Daoqiang's first words shocked everyone. The news of Lin Yi's return had already spread like wildfire outside, but they had been locked up in the meeting room all this time, so they had no idea about it. Upon hearing this name that made people gnash their teeth in hatred, but there was nothing they could do about it. Su Lingqiong and the others' expressions changed subtly, especially Pin Liang, who was secretly surprised. He, Lu Bianren, and the others had been worried about Lin Yi, and now he could finally relax. Lin Yi? When did this guy come back? Su Lingqiong's expression changed. Today, I met him when I went to the North Island Cultivators Guild to take a mission, and then. Ma Dongqiang looked down at the bandage on his leg that was soaked with blood, and said with grief and indignation, "It's all because of this bastard Lin Yi that I ended up in this situation. Brother Chong, you have to help me." "Did you fight with him?" Su Lingqiong frowned and glanced at his knee. "Yes, I wanted to help you, Brother Chong. So I challenged him in public, but I didn't expect this bastard to be more powerful than I thought. I accidentally fell into his trap. Brother Chong, you have to get back at him. Don't let that bastard get carried away." Ma Dongqiang said embarrassedly. Although he had been traumatized by Lin Yi's unfathomable means in his heart, he couldn't admit defeat verbally. Otherwise, how could he go out and meet people? Ma Dongqiang looked at Su Lingqiong with a burning gaze. They had always been at odds with Lin Yi, and the reason why they went against Lin Yi this time was also because of the mission he gave them. Therefore, it was reasonable for Su Lingqiong to stand up for him, and with young Master Su's strength, he would definitely not let that bastard Lin Yi have it easy. When the time comes, he would definitely be able to get back at him. However, Su Lingqiong's next sentence made him dumbfounded. "Are you crazy? Is your brain filled with shit?" Ma Dongqiang didn't react for a moment. "I asked you to find out information about Lin Yi, but did I say that I asked you to provoke him? Did I ask you to find trouble with him?" Su Lingqiong said expressionlessly. But Ma Dongqiang immediately had a wronged expression. When he gave the mission, Su Lingqiong indeed didn't say anything about dealing with Lin Yi, but when everyone talked about Lin Yi during meetings, they would always be filled with righteous indignation, as if they wanted to tear that bastard into pieces. Furthermore, didn't they go through so much trouble to find Lin Yi just to deal with him? Could it be that they were wrong? But Mayas, even I don't dare to easily go against that bastard, and you still want to go? Do you think that you're more capable than me? Su Lingqiong's face darkened as he turned around and pointed at the others. "Come, you go and ask them. Ask them, who among them dares to find trouble with Lin Yi alone?" Ma Dongqiang heard that and looked at everyone. His gaze swept across Meng Tong, Kong Mingming, and Zhong Pingliang, only to find that all of them were shaking their heads. He was completely stunned. As far as he knew, these people weren't cowards. Why were they so afraid of that bastard Lin Yi? Normally, even if their strength was slightly inferior, they wouldn't shake their heads so resolutely. It was as if the words, "I'm afraid of Lin," were written on their faces. Did they not even want the most basic of face? Unfortunately, he didn't expect that even though Su Lingqiong and the others were prideful people, they weren't idiots. After suffering so many losses at Lin Yi's hands, if they still didn't learn their lesson after this, then it could only be said that there was something wrong with their brains. "See? You idiot. Everyone here has a higher status than you. So many of them don't dare to provoke Lin Yi, and only you dare? You even dared to challenge him in front of everyone? You're lucky that he didn't kill you this time." Su Lingqiong pointed at Ma Dongqiang's nose and scolded, "I told you to go and find information, not to send you to your death. Do you think that your wings have hardened and you can ignore this young master's words?" "I don't dare." Ma Dongqiang quickly shook his head. His already ugly face instantly turned even paler. If Su Lingqiong really thought that he was disloyal, then he was dead meat. "I know that you've been in the limelight recently. What nascent soul super rookie king? What big 3 pavilions future successor? So you think that you're strong, right? Let me tell you, Brother Meng and I were much stronger than you back then, but even then, we couldn't defeat Lin. Who do you think you are? You're so stupid that even a pig would be blinded by you." Su Lingqiong continued to scold, not caring about his image as a young master. Chapter 4610. In actuality, The reason why he was so angry wasn't necessarily because Ma Zhongqiang had suffered a huge loss at Lin Yi's hands. In fact, Ma Zhongqiang's life or death didn't matter to him at all. After all, he was just a chess piece that didn't matter. The reason why he was so furious this time was actually because of Lin Yi. After not seeing him for a year and a half, he thought that he had far surpassed Lin Yi, but he did not expect that Lin Yi's strength seemed to have improved much more than his. Listening to Ma Daiqiang's description, he knew that with the strength of this guy at the middle stage of Yuaning realm, he could not even find out the details of Lin Yi's strength. It showed that he was a total waste, but it also showed that Lin Yi's strength was unfathomable. This unexpected outcome was simply like a pail of cold water to Su Lingchong, who was in high spirits recently. It would be strange if he didn't flare up in rage even after all this happened. Being used as a spear was like having bad luck and becoming his punching bag. Brother Chong, please calm down. I know I was wrong. Please calm down. Ma Daiqiang was afraid that Su Lingchong would do something to him in his rage. Regardless of his injury, he quickly turned over from the stretcher, gritted his teeth and half knelt in front of Su Lingchong, kowtowing to apologize. At this time, he wanted to slap himself 14,000 times. If he had known that this would be the result, he would not have dared to challenge Lin even if he had 10,000 guts. Before coming here, he thought that Su Lingchong would avenge him, but he did not expect that young Master Su would have such a reaction. Before this, Su Lingchong had always been arrogant. Every time he had a meeting, he would have a heroic spirit of pointing out the country. Ma Daiqiang even naively thought that there was nothing that young Master Su could not handle in the 3 pavilions of the North Island. After all, young Master Su not only had strong strength, but also had a mysterious person behind him. Little did he know that the reason why Su Lingchong could be so arrogant was that Lin Yi was not there. Otherwise, he would definitely have restrained himself. The bloody lesson a year and a half ago was still vivid in his mind. Su Lingchong's rage soared to the heavens, and he pointed at Ma Dun's nose and scolded for a long time before his rage finally subsided a little. He snorted coldly and said, "Get lost. Brother Chong, please spare my life. This lowly one won't dare to do it again. This lowly one swears to the heavens that I've always done my best for Brother Chong and have never been disrespectful." Ma Daiqiang was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He immediately hugged Su Lingchong's leg and begged with tears and snot. According to the rules of their organization, Su Lingchong was his only immediate superior. Once Su Lingchong asked him to scram, it would be seen as a betrayal in the eyes of the organization, and he would definitely die. At that time, even death would be an extravagant dream, and living a life worse than death would be the only outcome for him. What nonsense are you talking about? I told you to go back and recuperate. Still not scramming? Su Lingchong said with a frown. Oh yes. Thank you for your kindness, Brother Chong. Thank you for your kindness, Brother Chong. Only then did Ma Daiqiang react. He hurriedly kowtowed and thanked Su Lingchong, afraid that he would change his mind when Su Lingchong saw him in trouble. If that happened, he would really not be able to find his grave even if he cried. He watched as Ma Daiqiang rolled and crawled out of the door. Su Lingchong turned his head and looked at the others. He sighed and said, "What do you guys think we should do now?" He was naturally referring to Lin Yi. To all of them, Lin Yi was a huge rock weighing down on them. Even though they were much stronger than before, Lin Yi was still a burden to them. Although their current strength was not what it used to be, if they were to face Lin Yi like this, they really did not have the confidence, including Su Lingchong himself. All of them could not help but feel weak in their hearts. Young Master Su, with our strength, although we don't have to be afraid of that fellow Lin Yi, since he could so easily kill Ma Daiqiang, it means that we cannot underestimate him. If we were to face him alone, we might not have any chance of winning. Why don't we ask for the opinion of the higher-ups first? Kong Ming said after some consideration. Brother Meng, what do you think? Su Lingchong turned his head to look at Meng Tong. He might not care about the opinions of others, but Meng Tong was different. He now trusted Meng Tong more than anyone else. What Zhao Ming said makes sense. Before we know the details of Lin Yi's strength, we really can't act rashly. Meng Tong's temperament was much calmer. He paused and said, "Previously, the higher-ups asked us to inquire about Lin Yi's news. This time, we have completed the task. It's not a bad idea to ask for their opinion." "Okay, then let's do it." Su Lingchong immediately made a decision. Although scolding Ma Deqiang had dissipated a lot of his anger, he could not just leave Lin Yi alone. It was better to use this as an excuse to ask for advice and see if the mysterious man could help. After writing down the cause and effect of this matter in the form of a code, Su Lingchong then released a spirit beast from the underground secret room. It looked like a vampire bat. It was very small but extremely fast. This was given to him by the mysterious man for communication. Even a master of the nascent soul stage would find it difficult to intercept it on the way. It was extremely safe. Somewhere in the North Island, the vampire bat quietly flashed into an underground secret room at a speed that was hard to be seen by the naked eye. Suddenly, it was wrapped by a faintly discernible vital chi, and the coded note on its back fell into the hands of the mysterious man in black. After reading the contents of the note, the mysterious man in black did not show any surprised expression. It seemed that he had known about this matter for a long time. After a moment of silence, he got up and walked to another secret room that was even more core. At this moment, a woman was sitting in the secret room, and in front of her was a supercomputer that was extremely rare even in the secular world. It seemed to be calculating something. "Miss Luan, this is the news that Su Lingchong just sent. Please have a look." The mysterious man respectfully handed the note to the woman. "Oh, he wants to deal with Lin Yi?" The woman called Miss Luan smiled slightly. With all the conflicts between them and Lin Yi, it's not surprising that they have this kind of idea. However, this time, he acted on his own initiative. It seems that he was frightened by Lin Yi's strength. The mysterious man said faintly. He has only stayed in the South Continent for a year and a half, but his strength has changed from the Gold Core stage to the Nascent Soul stage. He can even defeat the master of the Nascent Soul stage with one move. It seems that this Lin Yi has had a lot of adventures in the South Continent. He really can't be underestimated. Miss Luan said in an unpredictable tone. "What does Miss Luan mean?" The mysterious man asked. "Keep an eye on them first. Don't let them act rashly. I have already told you about Lin Yi. Keep him alive. Maybe he will become our trump card in the future. At that time, he may be of great use. However, if he dies now, that group of people may go crazy. Dr. Li will be in big trouble." Miss Luan said faintly. Chapter 46:11. I understand. I will go and warn Su Lingchong now, in case they make their own decisions and ruin our plan. The mysterious man nodded. "Okay, go ahead. You have been doing well recently. The biochemical agent for Nascent Soul stage is finally done. Although there is still a slight flaw in the stability aspect, this kind of thing is inevitable. At most, we will just lose a few more people. This price is still bearable." Miss Luan had a rare relaxed smile on her face. "Thank you for the compliment, Miss Luan. This is my duty." The mysterious man lowered his head slightly. "Hee, you are not arrogant and rash. This is what I admire about you. You are much more reliable than the other mediocre people. If there are a few more people like you, our center will have great plans." The smile on Miss Luan's face became even wider, and then she said, "The Nascent Soul stage biochemical potion is only the first step. The next goal is the profound ascension stage. The difficulty of this breakthrough is much more difficult than the Nascent Soul stage. There must be no mistakes in this matter. The two idiots in the Devil Cold Sea are useless. You should choose 2 more people to go." "Then how about Su Lingchong and Meng Tong?" The mysterious man thought for a while and suggested. These 2 were the ones he had the highest hopes for, and it was rare for them to complement each other. As long as they were trained well, they would definitely become his right-hand men in the future. Since Miss Luan wanted to change the supervisor of Devil Lenghui, it was a rare opportunity for the 2 of them to train, and at the same time, they could avoid Lin Yi. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. "Let me recommend someone to you. That Zhong Pingliang is not bad. Let's promote him to a small leader." Miss Luan thought for a while and suddenly said, "Huh." The mysterious man was stunned when he heard that. Miss Luan was such a high and mighty person. Why would she pay attention to a small fry like Zhong Pingliang? This was a little strange. Although Zhong Pingliang had also joined the center, and it was not a long time, not a short time, at least 2 years ago, he had never really entered the eyes of the mysterious man. At most, he was a cannon fodder. If it wasn't for his good memory, even he might not have remembered this name. He was even stunned for a while before he finally remembered it, let alone Miss Luan. What? Do you have any objections? Miss Luan glanced at the mysterious man. No, this subordinate understands. The mysterious man quickly nodded. Although he wasn't expecting Pinliang, it was a small matter that didn't affect the bigger picture. They were in need of manpower anyway, and there was no need to worry about not having enough space to promote people like Meng Tong. Oh, by the way, I heard that little Pao is about to come out of seclusion. When the time comes, I'll ask him to come over and help you. You two can discuss and handle everything. I might have to leave for the eastern continent soon, Miss Luan said. Junior brother Pao has come out of seclusion? Great, I've been waiting for him for a long time. The mysterious man's eyes lit up when he heard that. Although junior brother Pao would definitely take away some of the power he had now, if he could take the opportunity to make friends with this person, it would be more beneficial than harmful in the long run. Yeah, this Zhong Pingliang I was talking about was actually the one who recommended him to me. You just have to be careful. You and little Pao are the core members of the center. When the time comes, you must work together sincerely. I don't want the two of you to fall out. Do you understand? Miss Luan urged. I understand. Junior brother Pao and I hit it off very well, and junior brother Pao is a person who cares about the overall situation. Everything he does is important to the center. I will definitely take care of the matters on the North Island with junior brother Pao. I won't let Miss Luan have any worries. The mysterious man solemnly promised. The North Island is only secondary. In the future, you can slowly let Su Lingsheng and Zhong Pingliang take care of it. Both of you have to focus on the South Island. I have something for you to do. Miss Luan shook her head slightly. The mysterious man nodded heavily. Although he was wondering what kind of task there was on the South Island that required him and junior brother Pao to do it so seriously, he just suppressed his doubts in his heart. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask, and don't look at what you shouldn't look at. This was the most important survival rule in the center. Okay, if there's nothing else, you can leave first. Miss Luan's eyes then returned to the supercomputer. Any kind of biochemical medicine needed to go through countless calculations and evolutions. Only after the plan was formed could it enter the formal experimental stage. She was now preparing for the biochemical medicine of the Shenshin stage. Yes, I will leave now. The mysterious man immediately bowed and left the room. Until he left the room, a trace of puzzlement and doubt appeared on his emotionless face. He was still wondering why junior brother Pao suddenly recommended Zhong Pingliang. With his influence and control over the North Island, nothing could escape from his surveillance. As far as he knew, Zhong Pingliang had never shown anything strange since he joined the Yingxin Pavilion. He gave people the impression that he was just a follower of Kong Mingming. After that, he became Su Lingchong's subordinate because of Kong Mingming. Other than that, he had no other connections. Pinliang himself, on the other hand, had decent talent, but he wasn't that outstanding. At least, he couldn't be compared to Lin Yi, a freak who kept rising up miraculously. He'd been quiet all this time, and he hadn't done anything earth-shattering. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have had anything to do with Brother Pao at all. Could it be that they had crossed paths in the secular world? The mysterious man was suddenly shocked. In his eyes, everything about Zhong Pingliang was too ordinary. After thinking about it, the only place where he could have crossed paths with junior brother Pao seemed to be the secular world. However, he could do whatever he wanted in the North Island. He didn't know anything about the secular world. However, even if he was suspicious, he wouldn't do anything to Zhong Pingliang. Since junior brother Pao wanted to help Zhong Pingliang, he naturally wouldn't offend him for such a small matter. It was just a small effort to push the boat along with the current, and he could also get a favor. No matter how he looked at it, it was not a loss. The reason why the mysterious man valued junior brother Pao so much was not only because of his strong background, but also because he heard that junior brother Pao had obtained the core inheritance of the ruins of the Day and Day sect. His current strength was very powerful, and he might not even be a match for him. In Heavenly Island, strength was king. If junior brother Pao only had a strong background, even if the mysterious man valued him, he wouldn't care so much. At most, he would just use him. However, if junior brother Pao had both strength and background, it was a different story. It was worth making a good friend. Chapter 46:12. After returning to his room, the mysterious man quickly sent a message to Su Lingchong, asking him to take Zhong Pingliang to a secret room. Of course, it wasn't the core of the North Island base, but another secret room to hide from the public. Let Zhong Pingliang go with us? Su Lingchong looked at the contents of the note and couldn't help but be stunned. He thought that the mysterious man was ready to deal with Lin Yi. Why did he suddenly send such a strange order? Was it written wrongly? It was more likely that he and Meng Tong were together. Although he guessed so in his heart, Su Lingchong didn't dare to change the order of the mysterious man even if he had the guts. Who knew if there was a deeper meaning in it? Pingliang, you come with me. The higher-ups want to see you. Su Lingchong suppressed his confusion and announced in public. At this time, the others hadn't left yet. Meng Tong and Kong Mingming heard it and suddenly felt strange. Everyone's eyes involuntarily focused on Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang looked blank on the surface, but at the moment, he was horrified. In an instant, he was covered in a cold sweat. His first reaction when he heard this was, "Fuck, did the fact that I was a spy get exposed?" In terms of status, he was only slightly higher than people like Ma Daqiang. Not to mention Su Lingchong, even Meng Tong was far from him. At most, he was about the same as Kong Xiaoming or even worse. After all, Kong Xiaoming had Elder Xianxian as his backer in Middle Island, and Zhong Pingliang had nothing. Since joining the organization until now, not only Zhong Pingliang, but other people including Meng Tong and Kong Mingming had never been officially met by the mysterious man. This had always been a special honor for Su Lingchong. If it wasn't exposed, how could this opportunity fall into his hands inexplicably? Facing the envious eyes of everyone, Zhong Pingliang couldn't help but feel like his heart was beating wildly. It really felt like something big was going to happen. There couldn't be a second explanation other than the exposure. Asking him to follow Su Lingchong to meet the mysterious man. Wasn't it obvious that he was walking into a trap? Pingliang's expression froze, and a chill ran down his spine. His legs grew heavy, and he couldn't move for a long time. "Let's go. What are you waiting for? You look like you've never seen the world before." Su Lingchong looked at him strangely, thinking that he was just too happy to contain his joy. Yes. Pingliang suppressed the fear in his heart when he saw everyone looking at him with a complicated expression. He couldn't show it on his face, he could only take it one step at a time. Under the cover of the night, Su Lingchong and Pingliang avoided the guard's line of sight as they made their way to a barren slope. There was a dense pine forest at the top of the slope, and the secret room the mysterious man had pointed at was right below it. Pingliang was trembling as he followed behind Su Lingchong. His heart was pounding so hard that it was about to jump out of his throat. There were a few times when he couldn't help but turn around and run away as he looked at the dark, windy night. But he stopped himself in the end. After all, Su Lingchong was much stronger than him, and he couldn't run even if he wanted to. He would only die faster if he was exposed. The two of them waited in the secret room. Pingliang held his breath as he carefully studied the layout of the secret room, planning his escape route in his mind. If it didn't work, he would have to fight to the death. After a tense moment of waiting, a breeze swept past them, and the mysterious man's figure appeared in front of them, still covered in a black robe. No one could see his face and body clearly. Of course, Pingliang didn't dare look at him for too long under these circumstances. He could only lower his head, trying his best not to let the mysterious man see his frozen expression. "Greetings, senior." Su Lingchong knelt down on one knee. Although he was valued by the mysterious man, he still didn't know who the mysterious man was, nor did he know his position. He only knew that the mysterious man had a very high position in the center, and so he could only greet him with a vague title like Senior. Pinliang didn't dare to be slow. He imitated Su Lingchong and bowed, at the same time taking the opportunity to bury his head even deeper, afraid that the mysterious man would see through his face. The mysterious man was silent for a moment. He could feel his gaze falling on Pinliang, looking him up and down with suspicion. Suddenly, he opened his mouth. "Zhong Pinliang, listen to my order." Pinliang jumped in fright, and his breathing stopped. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop his hands and feet from shaking. What the hell, what he was afraid of happened? Did he really get exposed? Su Lingchong, who was beside him, was also stunned. So the order he got wasn't a mistake. He really was looking for Pinliang. Since when did this kid enter the eyes of the higher-ups? That's really strange. The mysterious man, on the other hand, looked at Pinliang, surprised. The guy couldn't hide his nervousness at all. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The kid didn't look special at all. Why would Junior Pao think so highly of him? The higher-ups have ordered that Pinliang will be promoted to the center's special envoy in the North Island from today onwards. He will be on the same level as Su Lingchong. His main task is to assist me and another master to manage the North Island branch together, the mysterious man announced faintly. Ah! Pinliang was completely stunned. He was even prepared to die, but he didn't expect it to be something like this. The center's special envoy in the North Island? Did he just get a promotion for no reason? Pinliang rubbed his head, confused. He didn't do anything recently, and he didn't make any contributions to the center. Why did such a big pie suddenly fall on his head? It wasn't just Zhong Pinliang, even Su Lingchong was shocked speechless. He looked at the mysterious man in confusion. What was going on? How did Pinliang get promoted all of a sudden? He didn't make any contributions at all, and suddenly he was on the same level as him? Senior, there's a saying that two tigers can't share the same mountain. This Pinliang is my follower, and your words made him on the same level as me. It's not easy for me to manage and convince the others. Su Lingchong couldn't help but complain. He didn't have anything against Zhong Pinliang at first, but his follower was suddenly on equal footing with him. Anyone would be pissed off, especially someone as prideful as Su Lingchong. How could he tolerate something like this? Besides, he was the only candidate for the North Island Special Envoy. Now that Pinliang suddenly appeared, there were two special envoys. Wasn't this clearly stealing power from his hands? Chapter 46:13. Power was an extension of strength, and it was the foundation of Su Lingchong's position in the center. No matter who dared to touch the power in his hands, that person was Su Lingchong's enemy. How could he allow others to sleep beside his bed? At that moment, Su Lingchong even unconsciously felt murderous. If Zhong Pinliang dared to stand in his way, he wouldn't mind finding an excuse to make this follower disappear from the face of the earth. What? You have a problem with that? The mysterious man snorted coldly. Although they didn't do anything, the temperature in the secret room suddenly dropped a lot, sending chills down people's backs. Zhong Pinliang recovered from the trembling just now, and this time it was Su Lingchong's turn to be shocked. No, I wouldn't dare. Su Lingchong was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He thought to himself that he was so angry that he lost his head. There was no room for him to interrupt when the mysterious man promoted his subordinates. Once he made the mysterious man dissatisfied, not to mention being the special envoy of the North Island, he wouldn't even be able to keep his life. His life and death were all in the hands of the mysterious man. If there's a next time, don't be the envoy anymore. We're currently lacking nascent soul stage test subjects. The mysterious man looked at him coldly, and when he saw that Su Lingchong was about to kneel on the ground in fear, he explained, "It was Junior Pao who recommended Zhong Pinliang to be the envoy of the North Island. Even if you have any other thoughts, put them away. Don't try anything funny, or even I won't be able to protect you." In fact, putting himself in Su Lingchong's shoes, the mysterious man could understand Su Lingchong's feelings at the moment. In fact, the person he had originally planned was only Su Lingchong, and at most, Meng Tong as his assistant. But now that the higher-ups had hinted, he could only break his original arrangement. So it's Master Pao's recommendation. Su Lingchong instantly became listless, and after hearing the name, he couldn't help but lose his soul. He knew that there was no turning back, and from now on, not only could he not make things difficult for Zhong Pingliang, but he had to change his attitude and build a good relationship with him. He had to throw away his pride and make friends. After all, Master Pao was like a master to him, and had the power to decide his life and death, just like the mysterious man. Since it was Master Pao's idea to promote Zhong Pingliang, how could Su Lingchong dare to say no? Master Pao? Pingliang almost jumped up when he heard this, his eyes widening. If he hadn't lowered his head on purpose, the mysterious man would have noticed something fishy. What the fuck? The last time he heard this name, Pingliang couldn't help but wonder if this Master Pao had some sort of connection with Zhang Naipeo. Now, he was 70 to 80% sure. His conjecture seemed to be possible. If this great Pao wasn't Zhang Naipeo, then why would he recommend him for no reason at all? Pingliang didn't have any contact with the people in the center, not a single one of them. If it weren't for that so-called Master Pao wouldn't have even heard of his name, let alone recommended him out of the blue. Zhang Naipeo had suddenly turned into the powerful Master Pao of the center. This unexpected discovery left Pingliang speechless, even though he hadn't confirmed it yet. But even this 70 to 80% possibility was already incredible. But this Zhang Naipeo wouldn't really betray them, would he? Otherwise, how could he be doing so well in the center? Fuck, he would have to ask him if he had the chance to see him in the future. This kid better not be ungrateful. Pingliang felt the mysterious man's gaze on him. Pingliang reacted and pretended to be grateful. Thank you for the recommendation, Senior. I will do my best to complete this mission. All right. I don't have any special mission for you yet. What you need to do next is to get used to it, and ask Su Lingchong if there's anything you don't understand. Of course, you can also use the bloodbat to contact me directly. The mysterious man nodded faintly. Su Lingchong couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Being able to contact the mysterious man directly meant that they were on equal footing now. A minute ago, he was just an insignificant follower, and now he had to be on good terms with the mysterious man. This kind of feeling was fucked up no matter how he thought about it. Pingliang smirked at Su Lingchong and said playfully, "Then I'll be in your care in the future, Chong bro." "Not at all, not at all." Pingliang, you? "Oh no, Liang bro, please forgive me for what happened in the past. In the future, we brothers will work together sincerely and strive not to disappoint Senior and Master Pao." Su Lingchong smiled awkwardly. Pingliang chuckled, but in his mind he was thinking about how to pass this news to Lin Yi. Besides, now that he was the so-called envoy of the Northern Island, he needed a few subordinates to order around, or else he would still be under Su Lingchong's control. Looking at the group of people under Su Lingchong's command, Meng Tong was Su Lingchong's loyal follower, so there was no need to consider that. On the other hand, Kang Mingming was too scheming, and he always thought that he was above Pingliang, so there was no way to rope him in. Then, the only ones left were Yu Zhe, Nen Tianba, Southern Sky Gate, and that half-crippled Ma Daoqiang. Especially Ma Daoqiang, he had water in his head, so he should be able to pull it in easily. Pingliang officially took up his post in the secret room, and on the other side, the first residence of the Blue Cloud Pavilion was brightly lit and filled with laughter. Not only were Lin Yi and the others gathered, but even Hong Zhong had specially rushed over after receiving the news. Originally, with his sensitive identity as the vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he couldn't enter the inner sect of the three great pavilions as he pleased, but Hong Zhong and Lin Yi's personal relationship was already known by everyone, plus he had a good relationship with the three great pavilions' higher-ups, so he wasn't afraid of breaking the taboo this time. No one would cause trouble for him and Lin Yi for such a small matter, unless that person was sick in the head and was tired of living. When the banquet was ready, Lin Yi sat at the head of the table, and Hong Zhong sat on his left. After all, whether it was status or strength, he was the highest here after Lin Yi, so he deserved to sit in this position. Behind Hong Zhong was Lu Bianren and senior brother Ku Bai, while on the right of Lin Yi sat Shanghai Lena, Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Li Jingming. It was not an exaggeration to use the phrase, "a galaxy of talents," to describe everyone present here. Needless to say, Lin Yi, Hong Zhong, and Shangguan Lan were either big shots or heaven's proud sons and daughters. As for the rest of the people here, compared to other Clear Cloud Pavilion disciples, each one of them was an undeniable elite. Chapter 46:14. If this continued, these people's futures would be limitless. Who knew how long it would be before they became the pillars of Blue Cloud Pavilion? Perhaps Blue Cloud Pavilion would rise again in their hands, following Zhang Liju's era to rule the north again. At that time, people would give this post-Zhang's era a new name, Lin Yi's era. The banquet started, and everyone looked at Lin Yi quietly, waiting for him to start. Lin Yi smiled as he looked at everyone's faces. It's been 2 years, and I'm very happy to see that everyone is doing well. There's nothing more important than this, and we should be content with what we have. Come, let's toast to our reunion after such a long time. Cheers. Everyone smiled and raised their glasses, and even little Curly Bear finished his glass. Of course, he wasn't drinking spirit wine, but the spirit fruit juice that everyone had prepared for him and Shangguan Lena. Curly Bear's drunkenness wasn't something to be messed with, and if this little guy got drunk, it'd be a huge joke. Little brother, hurry up and tell us about your experiences in the south, I can't wait. Shangguan Lena said impatiently. Yeah, boss, hurry up and tell us, we're all waiting to hear about your legendary experiences. Xiao Hongkai and the others added. Before this, it was basically Lin Yi asking them about their situations, but now it was the other way around. That's right, I'm also very curious about how you escaped from Shishan Old Zone. If you came back a few days later, I would have personally gone to Southern Continent. After all this time, Honest Chai kept saying that he couldn't find any news about you, and I thought he was a fence-sitter, disloyal when he saw the situation wasn't right. This time, I wanted to go ask him about it, but luckily you came back today, otherwise I would have blamed a good person wrongly. Hong Zhong said with a smile. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel touched. The Southern Continent was publicly recognized as a place of trouble. Unless there were special circumstances, most people would not be willing to go there. Especially for a prominent figure like Hong Zhong, going to the South Continent in person was risking his life. Because this would inevitably give the enemies and competitors an opportunity to take advantage of. They didn't dare to play dirty tricks in the North Island and the Middle Island, but in Nanzhou State, they could do it unscrupulously and openly. Anyway, they could easily evade the responsibility with a word. Even if they took the opportunity to kill Hong Zhong, they would not have any worries. After all, murder and arson were too common in Nanzhou State, and there was no way to investigate it. So where do you want me to start? You should all know what happened before we met West Mountain Old Sect Master, right? Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. He knew that the north side of the island had sent people to investigate his whereabouts. And it wasn't just the eyes and ears of the Clear Cloud Pavilion, but also the Soaring Sky Pavilion. Otherwise, there was no way Shangguan Tianhua would know his whereabouts so clearly. Start from the beginning. Shangguan Lena hurriedly said, I just know some general news about you, junior brother, but I don't know the details. Also, why didn't Sister Xiaotao come back with you? You still don't know about Xiaotao? Lin Yi could not help but be slightly stunned. Huang Xiaotao's matter was quite sensational in the South Continent. Although it was said that they were far apart from each other, there should be some news about it, right? I don't know. Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. In fact, they felt strange from the beginning when they saw Lin Yi. It was just that they were too excited just now and forgot to ask. After all, they had no personal relationship with Huang Xiaotao. They had only met her a few times. Only Shanghai Lena was close to Huang Xiaotao. Therefore, everyone usually only paid attention to the news of Lin Yi, but never deliberately inquired about Huang Xiaotao's situation. Well, then I will start from the beginning. Lin Yi paused for a while, then began to say, the first day Xiaotao and I arrived in the South Continent, we met with a small problem. We had a conflict with a local bully in the Weiqian Ocean. Fortunately, the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Qi Wenhan, helped us out. After that, the two of us took the opportunity to join the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and became escorts. and our first escort mission came from the local Weiqian branch of the Hong Merchant Association. Wei Xiaodong's matter. This old man did not know his character well and almost harmed you. I am truly sorry. Hong Zhong said apologetically. Elder Hong, you are exaggerating. The reason why you introduced Wei Xiaodong to me was for my own good. His change of heart is his problem, it has nothing to do with you. I can still distinguish between good and bad, so why do you have to blame yourself? Furthermore, he didn't really cause me any trouble. In the end, he promoted Honest Chai. To you and me, this is a rare good thing. Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand disapprovingly. That may be the case, but a mistake is a mistake. I must always remember this matter and remind myself to keep my eyes open in the future. I must not repeat the same mistake and be deceived by such a vile person. Hong Zhong sighed. Wei Xiaodong was his old friend of many years, but such a thing happened. No matter who it was, they would not be in a good mood. What are you two talking about? Who is Wei Xiaodong? How did he almost harm you? Shanghai Laner and the rest were confused. Wei Xiaodong is not a stranger, he is the shopkeeper of the local Weiqian branch. I originally thought he was a good person, but who would have thought that he was so heartless? On one hand, he had the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency escort the goods, and on the other hand, he contacted pirates to intercept his goods. After taking back his goods, he asked the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency to compensate him at the original price. As a shopkeeper of the Hong Merchant Association, he actually did business without any capital. Just thinking about it makes me speechless. Lin Yi laughed bitterly. He stole his own goods and wanted the escort agency to compensate him at the original price? To think that there would be such a black-hearted bastard. He deserves to die. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation. What happened after that? Little junior brother, did you beat these bastards into a sorry state? Shanghai Laner's eyes lit up with excitement. In her eyes, Lin Yi had always been an omnipotent existence. Of course, he had to show his skills at this time. No, they sent 4 pirates, and each of them was much stronger than the 4 of us escorts. In addition, our chief escort gave up resisting first, so we could only choose to endure it. Lin Yi shook his head and then said, after that, those pirates left us in Jinduan City. Xiao Tao and I couldn't go back to the Weiqian waters for a while, so we could only stay in Jinduan City. We also went to the Lufeng Forest in the South Island to explore, and we had a lot of unexpected gains. Chapter 46:15. Lin Yi did not elaborate on the details of the adventure. Firstly, it was a long story. Secondly, he would definitely prepare treasures such as nascent ginseng and star ink milk for everyone, but there was no need to announce it in public. As the old saying goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Who knew if there were any surveillance arrays in residence number 1 of the Blue Cloud Pavilion? What happened after that? The crowd continued to ask. After that, when we returned to Jinduan City from Lufeng Forest, we thought that we would be able to return to Wei Arc City. However, we didn't expect to bump into the East Continent's Morning Star Academy that came to select their disciples. The entire pier was cordoned off, and we couldn't leave at all. Linny laughed. East Continent's Morning Star Academy? The crowd was stunned when they heard the name. Everyone else had a confused expression on their faces. Only Hong Zhong and Shanghai Laner were not at a loss. They were just a little surprised. Then, did you participate in the selection? Hong Zhong and Shangguan Lan are asked almost at the same time. Needless to say, Hong Zhong, although Shangguan Lan had never been to the East Continent, given her upbringing in the Shangguan family, she would never forget the most important place among the 5 Heaven Stage Islands, the East Continent. Others might not know, but the 2 of them were absolutely clear about the significance of the East Continent Academy. Yes, I thought that since I had nothing to do, I might as well join the crowd to watch the fun. In the end, I was tacitly accepted as a participant. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and shrugged his shoulders. And the result? What was the result? The 2 of them quickly asked. Plus, the result was obvious. I failed, but Xiao Tao was chosen. She became the only direct disciple of the East Sea godly nun of the Morning Star Academy. It was a heaven-sent opportunity. The other party was a mountain opening stage powerhouse. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Really? That's great. Sister Xiaotao is really amazing. Shengguan Lan, said happily. She was so simple that she would never make people angry. She was happy for Huang Xiaotao from the bottom of her heart. After all, Huang Xiaotao had a miserable life, and it was a dream opportunity for everyone to become the personal disciple of a powerhouse in the mountain opening period. This was probably God's compensation for her. Young hero Lin, how did you fail? That's impossible, right? However, Hong Zhong's focus was not on Huang Xiaotao. He had seen a lot of the world, and the number of people he had met was not something ordinary people could imagine. He had seen hundreds of so-called super geniuses, and if he had to say who could stand out among them, it had to be Lin Yi. There was no doubt about this. Hong Zhong had been to the East Continent and had seen the genius disciples of the academies there. In his opinion, Lin Yi's potential and ability far surpassed those genius disciples. This was not because they had a close relationship or because they loved each other. It was a very objective truth. Since even Huang Xiaotao could become a direct disciple of the divine nun of the East Sea, how could Lin Yi, whose talent was at least 10 times greater than hers, fail? If that was the case, Hong Zhong could only think that the higher-ups of the Morning Star Academy had a screw loose. When Hong Zhong said so, Shanghai Laner also finally reacted, and could not help but say strangely, "That's right, even my grandfather is full of praise for little junior brother. How could little junior brother fail? I've heard it from my grandfather." In the past, there was a school in the East Continent that wanted to recruit senior brother Ram, but senior brother Ram only went for a month and came back. He looked down on the genius disciples there. Grandfather's evaluation of junior brother is no lower than senior brother Ram. That's right. It's a joke that boss didn't get selected with his talent. Those people must have been blind. Qiao Hongkai and the others said. They didn't know much about East Continent College, but they knew that East Continent College wasn't a big deal. Although they did not know much about the East Continent Academy, with Ram Jie as a comparison, their boss Lin Yi would not lose to Ram Jie no matter how they looked at it. Looking at the indignant attitude of the crowd, Lin Yi was both amused and touched. He could only blink his eyes and said, "Once I'm chosen, I have to go to the East Continent like Xiaotao. I don't really want to go, so that's how it is. I knew it was impossible not to be chosen." The crowd suddenly understood, and one by one laughed. The matter of the East Continent Morning Star Academy selection is known by everyone in the South Continent. It's a big deal, but you guys really don't know anything about Xiaotao here? Lin Yi asked curiously. From what he understood, Huang Xiaotao's matter was equivalent to a secular student getting into a famous university. It was a real honor, and logically speaking, the alma mater would definitely publicize it. I don't know, I haven't heard anything about it. The crowd looked at each other and shook their heads. My grandfather should know, but every time I asked him, I only mentioned your name. I didn't specifically ask Sister Xiaotao, so he didn't tell me, Shanghai Laner said thoughtfully. Lin Yi nodded but still felt strange. The higher-ups of the North Island must have known about Huang Xiaotao's matter. After all, she was an inner disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion before this, but what was strange was that the higher-ups all kept silent about it. Not only did Shanghai Tianhua not say anything, but even Blue Cloud Pavilion didn't say anything. This was a bit unreasonable. Now that Blue Cloud Pavilion was so weak, it would be good to use Huang Xiaotao's matter to boost their morale. I know a little about this. Hong Zhong suddenly said. Seeing that everyone was looking at him in confusion, he smiled and said, "Actually, the East Continent Academy will come out to select disciples every year. Not only the South Continent, but other heaven-level islands, including the Middle Island, will also go. But you guys have been here for so long. Have you heard of anyone from the 3 pavilions in the North Island going to the East Continent Academy? Or have you seen the East Continent Academy come to the North Island to select disciples?" Everyone shook their heads. It could be explained that Lin Yi and the others had only joined for a short time, but Lu Bianren and senior brother Ku Bai had been here for so many years, but they still knew nothing about it. This was not normal. As far as I know, The reason why the academies in the East Continent don't come to the North Island to select disciples publicly is actually because they have an agreement with the 3 pavilions in the North Island. I don't know the specific content of the agreement, and I only know a general idea. Basically, the right of recommendation is given to the 3 pavilions in the North Island. The East Continent Academy doesn't have to come to the selection in person, but the higher-ups of the 3 pavilions will recommend on their behalf. Hong Zhong paused, then looked at Shanghai Laner and said, "The initiator of this agreement is your grandfather, Shanghai Tianhua." Everyone was stunned, but they were not surprised. If the 3 pavilions in the North Island were to recommend a big shot who could best represent the North Island, it would be Shanghai Tianhua. If it were someone else, even the Pavilion Master of Mysterious Pavilion and the Pavilion Master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, it would be difficult to convince the public. In other words, the matter of recommending genius disciples to the East Continent Academy is only discussed by the higher-ups of the 3 pavilions, but it has never been announced to ordinary disciples? Lin Yi asked thoughtfully. Chapter 46:16. See, that's right. Every time a genius disciple from the North Island is recommended to East Continent College, it will be said that he's going out to perform a task. There are 2 reasons for this. First, although East Continent College isn't a traditional sect force, and theoretically, he will come back after a period of study. But if this matter is made public, it will inevitably make all the disciples of the 3 pavilions scramble for this recommendation. I believe that everyone will break their heads for this recommendation. If a disciple of a sect only fights to join East Continent College, do you think this sect will have any cohesion or future? Hong Zhong analyzed. Novel download. What he said was not groundless. Many sects in Central Island also had the right to recommend, but they didn't keep a low profile like the 3 pavilions in the North Island. For the sake of so-called fairness, they always competed openly. As a result, in the end, few of these geniuses who went to East Continent College returned to serve their sects. Because from the beginning, East Continent College was their goal, and sects were simply a springboard for them. How could they come back to serve this springboard after they achieved their goal? But being recommended by the 3 pavilions for further study and being bent on going to East Continent were 2 completely different things. It was like a person in a school in the secular world. Everyone was bent on getting into a better school, and once they got there, they would definitely not return to the original school. But if he was an employee of a company, and one day the boss told him to give him a chance to study, the employee would definitely be grateful and return to the company after the study. 800-inch. That makes sense. What's the second reason? Everyone asked. To read this book, please go to. The second reason, of course, is to keep a low profile. For any sect, the more genius disciples it can recommend to East Continent College, the stronger their strength will be in the future. Since it's certain that these disciples will return to the North Island in the future, it's natural to hide them as a trump card. Hong Zhong couldn't help but ask with a smile. I see. Everyone nodded. A trump card was a trump card because it could confuse people and make them fearful. Once it was taken out, it would be known to the public. Not only could it not control people suddenly, but its deterrence would also be greatly reduced. Junior brother, did you separate from Sister Xiaotao after that? Shengguan Laner continued to return to the topic. That's right. Xiaotao left directly with the divine nun of the Eastern Sea. As for me, I returned to Velvet Arc City alone. Coincidentally, I ran into those pirates on the way, so I snatched the goods and returned to confront Wei Xiaodong. After that, he promised the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency to participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's grand event. You should know about this, right? Lin Yi asked. I know. I heard that junior brother killed the evil cultivator Wu Baoliang at the grand meeting. As a result, you provoked the West Mountain Old Sect and were chased by him all over the world. Shanghai Laner said. Lu Bianren and the others also nodded. I've heard of the name of the West Mountain Old Sect. It's said that he's the second most powerful person in the West Mountain Evil Sect. He's an unfathomable mountain-opening evil cultivator. Young hero Lin, it's unbelievable that you could escape from him. Hong Zhong couldn't help but sigh. Only when one reached a certain level could one truly understand how terrifying the giants of the mountain opening period were. He was much more aware of the difficulty involved than the clueless crowd. Haha, actually it's mainly luck. Originally, with my strength, I couldn't have gotten rid of him. However, by chance, I escaped to the South Island, and he didn't dare to go deeper. After all, the spirit beasts are not to be trifled with, so I simply hid in the South Island to cultivate. It wasn't until recently that I completely got rid of the West Mountain Old Sect's surveillance that I was able to escape and return, Linny said in a few words. As for the part about the 5 poison swamp and the 5 evils dragon, there was no need to explain it in detail. It's not easy to hide in the South Island for so long and remain unscathed. It's not something that can be summed up simply by luck. The hardships and sufferings are not something that ordinary people can endure. Young hero Lin, I toast you. Hong Zhong praised. Little junior brother, we toast you together. The others followed. Thank you everyone. Cheers. Lin immediately smiled and drank it in one gulp. By the way, I have a letter for you, young hero Lin, but I just came in a hurry and didn't bring it with me. I'll give it to you tomorrow, Hong Zhong said suddenly. Letter? What letter? Lin didn't react for a moment and said in a daze. It's sent by the transportation company under the Central Chamber of Commerce. It's written that the recipient is you, young hero Lin, but I don't know why it was sent to me. Hong Zhong was also a little puzzled. Although there was no news from Lin Yi during this time in the South Continent, and it was not strange that the letter was not sent to him, it was very strange that it was sent to him inexplicably. If Lin Yi didn't personally tell him, it meant that the Central Chamber of Commerce, which had suddenly risen, had investigated the personal relationship between Hong Zhong and Lin Yi clearly. This feeling was really a little disturbing. Hong Zhong was still worried if there was any conspiracy behind this, but after Lin Yi heard it, he was suddenly stunned and didn't respond for a long time, which made everyone look at each other and think that he ate something weird. Lin Yi was stunned for a long time before he came to his senses. Seeing everyone looking at him with a worried face, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and shook his head with a smile. Oh, I'm fine, Elder Hong. I've been waiting for this letter for a long time. I'll go find you tomorrow morning. It was no wonder that he lost his composure. When he heard the words, Central Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi already knew that this letter was probably the reply from the secular world that he had been looking forward to. After hearing the news, Lin Yi couldn't help feeling a little absent-minded. Fortunately, he had told them about his experience in the South Continent, which finally satisfied their curiosity. Because Shanghai Laner had to go back before midnight, the banquet didn't last too long. Seeing that it was almost time, everyone dispersed. After seeing everyone off, Lin Yi didn't rest. His mind was full of the letter that Hong Zhong mentioned, and he was too excited to stop. However, he still restrained himself and didn't follow Hong Zhong to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce overnight. Instead, he went to the secret base of the King of Rags alone with the food and wine that he had prepared in advance. After such a long time, this place hadn't changed at all. When Lin Yi appeared with the food and wine, the King of Rags was engrossed in writing as if he was calculating something crazily. The ground beside him was covered with the manuscript paper that he had written. Lin Yi just stood behind him, but he didn't notice it at all. XH 118. Chapter 46:17. Lin Yi smiled and didn't disturb the King of Rags. He just quietly looked at what the King of Rags was writing. There were all kinds of strange symbols and extremely complicated formulas, which Lin Yi, a dabbler in forging, couldn't understand at all. He could only roughly see that the King of Rags was improving the plan, and it was related to the weapon that was being forged. At this moment, the situation in the casting pool was the same as before. It was still that unsightly lump of iron, still maintaining a lukewarm state. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 bubbles in the pool, but most of the time, it was like a pool of stagnant water, without any sign of forming. No. There must be something wrong here, but where is the problem? The King of Rags suddenly frowned and muttered with a worried look. Eat something first, maybe it'll help if you clear your head a little. Lin Yi said as he placed the dishes on the table beside him. Well, to you that's fine. Garbage King nodded without even turning his head, grabbing the food and wine and wolfing it down without even looking at it. His eyes were still glued to the paper, and it took a good half an incense's worth of time for him to finish all the food and wine before he finally snapped back to reality. You're back. He turned around abruptly with a surprised look on his face. You're back. Huh, you finally see me. If it were someone else with bad intentions, you wouldn't know how many times you would have died. You have to be more vigilant in the future. Linny didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hee, I couldn't help but be distracted. The King of Rags scratched his head and smiled embarrassedly. I'm really sorry. I've been away for more than a year. I was forging for me, but it was you who suffered from the beginning. I'm really sorry. Lin Yi looked at the King of Rags' disheveled appearance and was suddenly filled with guilt. But the King of Rags didn't feel anything. Hearing Lin Yi's words, he was surprised. Has it been 2 years? I don't even know. Lin Yi suddenly felt even more guilty. The tattered king had been guarding this forging pool all year round and had never stepped out of it. That's why he even forgot about the time. Lin Yi couldn't help but be moved. It's because of me. I've made you suffer, Brother Wang. You're talking about this? Brother Lin, you're looking down on me too much. Patience is a compulsory lesson for blacksmiths. Guarding here isn't a form of torture, but a rare cultivation experience. Even if that didn't happen, I've already planned to do something that tests my patience. It hasn't even been 2 years. How is that possible? King of Junk said disapprovingly. Lin Yi looked at the King of Junk doubtfully. It sounded like it was true, but it could also be nonsense to comfort himself. Regardless of whether it was true or not, he was very touched. Come, for your patience and perseverance, let me propose a toast to you. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. All the words he wanted to say were in the wine. I've already said it's nothing. The King of Junk chuckled, but still clinked his glass with Lin Yi and gulped it down. By the way, Brother Wang, what are you writing? It looks very profound. Lin Yi couldn't help but ask curiously as he filled the King of Junk's glass. It's an improvement plan that I've come up with recently. It might be able to break the current stalemate and add a very practical new feature to the weapon after it's completed. But I haven't figured it out yet. Based on the current progress, it'll probably take some time. Anyway, it's not a bad thing to waste time. Don't you think so, Brother Lin? The King of Junk said with a smile. Yes, no matter what, it's better than being half dead now. I believe in Brother Wang's ability. Lin Yi nodded. In terms of forging, he couldn't even be considered a primary school student compared to the King of Junk. It was not difficult for him to get some materials, but to ask him to give advice to the King of Junk on such a technical problem. He'd better wash up and go to bed. Actually, I've come up with a lot of interesting ideas recently. If I can realize them one by one, I can at least improve this weapon by a few levels. Unfortunately, these ideas require very high precision and fire control. I'm afraid I can't control it with my current level. What a pity. The King of Junk sighed. This was probably the highest level of weapon he could forge in his life. Of course, he wanted it to be perfect. Unfortunately, perhaps because the materials were too high grade, the precision of the fire during the forging of this weapon was so high that it made one's hair stand on end. There's still a long way to go. In fact, it's already very rare to be able to maintain the status quo for such a long time. If it really doesn't work, we can just treat it as practice. We can always get the materials again. Lin Yi comforted him. How can we do that? We won't be able to find things like the 10,000-year tree crystal and the ancient Pure Land in our next lives. How can we treat it as practice? Brother Lin, don't worry. Even if I can't make it take shape for the time being, I'm confident that I can maintain the status quo. As for the method, we'll try it slowly in the future. I believe we'll succeed one day. The King of Junk's eyes were shining. Looking at the King of Junk's confident look, Lin Yi was stunned. Then he smiled and nodded heavily. This guy was a genius in forging, and a simple-minded one at that. I've picked up a treasure this time. The two talked and drank at the same time. Not only did they not get drunk, but they became more and more spirited, especially the King of Junk's spirit. Other people would come up with ideas when they were drunk, but the king of junk's ideas were like taking a piss when he was drunk. After a while, he would come up with a strange idea. Every time he heard it, the half-baked Lin Yi would be stunned. In the end, the king of junk was so excited that he simply left Lin Yi aside and continued to calculate on the stone platform. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just when he was feeling helpless, the king of junk finally came to his senses and said to him, "Brother Lin, you'd better go back. I'm enough here. I can cultivate my patience in seclusion. This is a good opportunity." Lin Yi looked at him and calculated the time. It was almost dawn. Finally, he nodded and stood up. "Okay, then I'll leave it to you, Brother Wang. I'll come to see you in a few days." After coming out of the king of junk's secret base, Lin Yi didn't return to the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Instead, he went straight to the market. He couldn't wait to read the letter that Hong Zhong mentioned. Seeing Lin Yi come early in the morning, Hong Zhong was stunned for a moment. Then, under Lin Yi's urging, he took out the letter and handed it to Lin. Chapter 46:18. When he received the letter from Hong Zhong, although it was only a few thin sheets of paper, Lin Yi suddenly felt his hands become heavy. He took a few deep breaths before he finally calmed his mind and opened the letter to read. With just one glance, Lin Yi's emotions, which had calmed down, suddenly went out of control again. Tears almost flowed out of his eyes uncontrollably. Although he had only been on Heaven Stage Island for less than 3 years, which was equivalent to studying abroad in the secular world, Lin Yi was different. Strictly speaking, Heaven Stage Island and the secular world were on 2 different levels. Even if they were on different sides of the world, there would always be a day when they would meet again. However, if they were separated, it would be hard to say. It might even be an eternal farewell. If it wasn't for the emergence of the Central Chamber of Commerce and the words spoken by that ghostly thing in the 5 Poison Swamp, which gave Lin Yi hope of going back and forth to the secular world, Lin Yi's heart was a little more at ease. Otherwise, he might have asked around like he did when he first arrived. Taking another deep breath, Lin Yi controlled his hands that were involuntarily trembling due to excitement and carefully read the letter. There were a total of 10 sheets of paper. There were 5 sheets of paper, and each letter was divided into 2. One letter was for his confidants, and the other letter was for his lackeys. When he saw the first sentence at the beginning of the letter, Lin Yi was immediately delighted. It turned out that this group of people had originally planned to write a letter for each of them, but in the end, there were actually 100,000 words. When they were stacked together, it would be a thick dozen. 3 to 5 envelopes simply wouldn't be able to fit all of them, let alone all of them in one envelope. When the Central Express Delivery's courier came to collect the letter, he was dumbfounded. After a lot of persuasion, this group of people finally reluctantly changed their minds. After some discussion, it finally became like this. Each of them wrote a few words to Lin Yi, and then compiled them into 2 letters and sent them together. But even so, because of the excessive weight of the letter, this letter was tossed back and forth several times. It couldn't be helped that it could only be simplified again and again, barely meeting the requirements of the Central Express Delivery. As for the 2 letters in Lin Yi's hands, this was the 7th edition that everyone had put in a lot of effort to revise. Writing a letter, which was supposed to be a simple task, had become more complicated than writing a thesis. The 2 letters were filled with countless handwriting. In any case, everyone had to write a few sentences. Even if it was only 1 or 2 sentences, they had to write it themselves. They absolutely refused to let others write it for them. The letter also said that everyone had specially held a meeting for 2 days to discuss the format and grammar of the letter. This made Lin Yi not know whether to laugh or cry. These guys really have too much energy and nowhere to use it. Lin Yi silently shook his head, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that the top experts of the secular world had basically all come to Heaven Island. The strength of the remaining people could be said to be unparalleled in the world. Aside from He Lun Duan, who came to cause trouble, no one else dared to provoke them. It was normal for them to have excess energy. In the letter, everyone described the conflict before, including the matter of Lin Dongfang coming out to save the situation in detail. Other than that, there were some other trivial matters. However, even so, Lin Yi still read it over and over again. Every time he read it, the corner of his mouth would involuntarily curve up. He laughed foolishly for a long time. Although Hong Zhong deliberately left the room for Lin Yi to avoid arousing suspicion, he could still hear laughter from time to time in the next room. Once or twice was fine. The point was that he'd been like this for an entire hour, and even someone as knowledgeable as Hong Zhong was scared out of his wits. He couldn't help but furrow his brows, wondering if the letter had been poisoned or something. Otherwise, Lin Yi was a super genius who was calm and collected. Why would he keep laughing foolishly for no reason? There must be a problem. Lin Yi laughed foolishly for half an hour. Hong Zhong was restless in the next room for half an hour. Finally, he couldn't help but knock on the door. Young Hero Lin. Young Hero Lin. Old Hong. What's the matter? Lin Yi finally opened the door after a while. Oh, I'm fine. I just wanted to ask if you're okay. Hong Zhong looked up and down at Lin Yi with a strange expression. He found that it wasn't as strange as he thought it was. Lin Yi looked relaxed, as if a burden that had been weighing on his heart for many years had been removed. He felt that his whole person was a lot more radiant. Hong Zhong wasn't wrong. This letter really helped Lin Yi remove a big worry from his heart. The most important thing for him was that everyone in the secular world was safe and sound. Moreover, there was also Lin Yi to save the day. In addition, everyone was a rare master in the secular world. It could be said that they could sleep peacefully. Even He Luonen was given the cold shoulder, so there was nothing for Lin Yi to worry about. I'm fine. Lin Yi awkwardly scratched his head, and then suddenly asked, Old Hong, how much do you know about the Central Chamber of Commerce? Do you know about the Secular World Letter Delivery Service? The Secular World Letter Delivery Service? Hong Zhong was stunned when he heard this. He thoughtfully said, I have heard of this, but I didn't know much about it. Is this letter sent from the secular world? Yes, I bid for this at the Middle Island auction. It can be used to write a letter to friends and family in the secular world. The letter in my hand now is the acknowledgement letter from the secular world. Lin Yi nodded. Well, although I wasn't there at the auction, it was still quite sensational. It is said that writing a letter requires a sky-high price, and the price is very high. Hong Zhong said. At that time, the fixed price was 100,000 spiritual jades. Lin Yi smiled. That's really a sky-high price. Young Hero Lin, you are really generous. Hong Zhong couldn't help but sigh. 100,000 spiritual jades was enough to buy a large number of heaven and earth treasures. Many powerful cultivators were willing to risk their lives for 100,000 spiritual jades. In the end, Lin Yi just used it to write a letter. This kind of courage was really not something that ordinary people could have. For people like me, this letter is much more precious than any heaven and earth treasures. Not to mention 100,000 spiritual jades, even if it was 200,000 or 300,000, I would definitely find a way to buy it. Lin Yi paused and then asked, the Central Chamber of Commerce's letter delivery service to the secular world has not been heard of since the Middle Island auction. Old Hong, you have a wide network. Can you help me ask if this business is still continuing and if I can still reply to the secular world? Okay, wait here for a moment. I will go ask someone. Hong Zhong agreed without hesitation and immediately turned to go out. The place he went to this time was not far from the Hong Chamber of Commerce. It was the Central Chamber of Commerce in the inner street of the market. Chapter 46:19. The manager of the North Island branch of the Central Chamber of Commerce was still Si Haixiao. Although he had some conflicts with the Hong Chamber of Commerce, and the Hong Chamber of Commerce had put him on the blacklist, the Central Chamber of Commerce was rising too fast. Its power was no longer what it used to be. It was the third largest Chamber of Commerce, second only to the Five Elements Commerce and the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If it continued to develop at this speed, it was possible for it to replace the top two. Since the Central Chamber of Commerce was so powerful, as the manager of the North Island branch, Si Haixiao's status naturally rose. Now, many senior executives of the Hong Chamber of Commerce in the Middle Island headquarters were proposing large-scale cooperation with the Central Chamber of Commerce. For this, they did not hesitate to whitewash Si Haixiao's reputation. This was the trend, and even Hong Zhong could not stop it. Since the two sides had business cooperation, Hong Zhong naturally would not deliberately make things difficult for Si Haixiao. After all, he was a businessman who could make money with peace. Unless it was an irreconcilable feud, he could let go of all other grievances. Strictly speaking, there was no direct conflict between him and Si Haixiao. Si Haixiao was just stupid enough to flirt with Shengguan Laner and Ning Shuifei. Everything was his own doing, and it had nothing to do with Hong Zhong. "Hey, isn't this Manager Hong? What can I do for you?" Seeing Hong Zhong enter the door, Si Haixiao lazily sat on the armchair in the corridor on the second floor and greeted him condescendingly. On each side of him was a woman in thin clothes. Although they were not peerless beauties, their looks could be considered top-notch. He was in high spirits these days. Although he was only the manager of the North Island branch of the Central Chamber of Commerce, and Hong Zhong was the vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, a level higher than him, he looked down on Hong Zhong. The Central Chamber of Commerce was just a tool for the expansion of the Central Chamber of Commerce. In front of the Central Chamber of Commerce, even if the Hong Chamber of Commerce was the second largest chamber of commerce on the Heaven Stage Island, it was nothing. Of course. Even if he didn't like Hong Zhong was still an important figure. Si Haixiao wouldn't neglect him too much. After all, the business of the North Island branch had a lot of cooperation with the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If the relationship between them became strained, it wouldn't be a good thing for him. "Manager Si, I haven't seen you for a few days. How are you?" Hong Zhong cupped his hands and smiled, not minding Si Haixiao's slight. If Si Haixiao looked down on him, he would look down on Si Haixiao as well. In his eyes, Si Haixiao was just a despicable person. If he hadn't been lucky enough to board the ship of the Central Chamber of Commerce, this guy would have long died in some mass grave. However, Hong Zhong's shrewdness and self-restraint were not something that a mere Si Haixiao could compare to. Even though he looked down on him, he could still make the other party feel like he was bathing in the spring breeze. This was the ability that a businessman should have. "It's all right. I eat and drink as I should. Most importantly, I have beauties to accompany me. This is how I live my life. Do you want me to give you one?" Si Haixiao said with a laugh. In the past 2 years, he had spent a lot of effort to find beautiful women from all over the place and formed a harem group. He hung out with the harem group all day long. Leading a befuddled life was his goal in life. The higher-ups didn't seem dissatisfied with his actions at all. As long as he could complete the task on time, even if he had a harem of 3,000 beauties, no one would care about him. I appreciate shopkeeper C's good intentions. However, a gentleman doesn't take what others like. I can't afford to enjoy such beauties. Hong Zhong smiled slightly and walked up to Si Haixiao. He asked directly, "One doesn't come to the temple for no reason. I'm actually here to ask a favor. There's something that I want to understand from you, shopkeeper C. I wonder if it's convenient?" "No problem. Ask away." Si Haixiao was still carelessly hugging the two beauties. He didn't have the slightest intention of letting them avoid suspicion. Hong Zhong's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. If this was an important business discussion, he would definitely turn around and leave without saying a word. Talking business with this guy was simply looking for trouble. "I want to ask if the business of sending letters to the secular world that your Chamber of Commerce once launched at the Zhongdao auction is still going on?" Hong Zhong asked calmly. "You want to send letters to the secular world?" Si Haixiao was stunned when he heard this. He didn't think much about it and answered directly, "No, this business has never been launched at all. It's just that in order to make a name for ourselves, we used the opportunity of the Zhongdao auction to create a gimmick. After that, it was cancelled." "Cancelled? But as far as I know, this business was marked with a sky-high price of 100,000 spirit jades." Hong Zhong couldn't help but feel a little strange. 100,000 spirit jades is indeed a sky-high price, but think about it. This is not an ordinary letter delivery business. It needs to travel between the Heaven Stage Island and the secular world. How can the energy and cost of this be imagined by ordinary people? I can tell you bluntly. Don't think that 100,000 spirit jades is a sky-high price. It's a losing business. Back then, it was just a loss to make a name for itself. Only a fool would continue doing it. Si Haishao curled his lips in a nonchalant manner. Then will this business be reopened in the future? Hong Zhong still didn't give up and asked. Who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. This matter is not under my jurisdiction, so I'm not too sure. But I guess it won't happen in a short period of time. Si Haishao was busy with the women beside him while taking the time to answer. So that's how it is. Thank you for enlightening me, shopkeeper Si. This old man still has something to do, so I won't disturb you any longer. I'll take my leave first. Hong Zhong immediately said after inquiring about the situation. Since the other party had already said this, it meant that this matter was really impossible. It would be a waste of time to continue asking, and it might even make people suspicious. Take care, I won't send you off. Si Haishao raised his eyelids and looked at Hong Zhong's back as he left. Suddenly he frowned slightly. Why did this old man ask about this? Could it be that he has friends in the secular world? With beauties in his arms, Si Haishao was too lazy to continue thinking about it. Instead of spending time thinking about an old man, it was better to leave time for his two little beauties. This was the right thing to do. After returning to the Hong Chamber of Commerce, Hong Zhong told Lin Yi about Si Haishao's answer. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. Since the Central Chamber of Commerce didn't intend to continue, no matter how many spirit jades he had, it was useless. Chapter 4620. Yes, it makes sense. What do you mean, Elder Hong? Lin Yi asked quickly. I think its problem may be in two aspects. Either this technology is not mature enough, or this business is too sensitive and hurts the core interests of some people, so it can only be stopped halfway. Other than this, I can't think of any other reason to stop this exclusive monopoly business. Hong Zhong speculated. Monopoly. This was something that almost all businessmen dreamed of. For this, there were many who would not hesitate to go on a killing spree. Which Chamber of Commerce would give up their monopolized business? Lin Yi nodded thoughtfully. This Central Chamber of Commerce that suddenly rose was too mysterious, especially the huge shadow behind it. Just thinking about it made people shudder. Capturing a large number of gold core stage masters for human experiments, how terrible this kind of organization was. The two were silent for a moment and did not continue this topic. Lin Yi turned to ask, by the way, Elder Hong, have you been to Zhongdao recently? Yes, I went there just last month. I specially went to Kai Zhongyang and Ho Guanqi and asked them to take me to Tiandan Pavilion. The business is really good. Hong Zhong looked at Lin Yi with a playful look. With his relationship with Lin Yi would certainly not hide the matter of Tiandan Pavilion from him. After all, he was a real ally who could be included in the category of his own people. Moreover, he had asked Hong Zhong to help send elixirs to Tiandan Pavilion. How are they? Lin Yi asked quickly. Them? You mean Kai Zhongyang and Ho Guanqi? Of course, they are still the same. Their tempers are not warm and hot, and they can't change for a lifetime. Hong Zhong deliberately laughed. Elder Hong, don't keep me guessing. You know I'm not talking about them, but them. Lin Yi was a little embarrassed and rubbed his hands. The saying, even heroes have a weakness for beauties is true. To think that Kai Zhongyang and Ho Guanqi specifically asked me to bring you a message, but you didn't care at all. You only care about your two confidants. If they find out about this, their expressions will definitely be very interesting. Hong Zhong said with a rare mischievous smile. Bring me a message? What news? Lin Yi was stunned. They told me to tell you. These 2 years, Master Zhang Liju hasn't been back at all. If he does, he'll send you a message immediately. Hong Zhong said. I know. It's rare for them to keep thinking about this. I have to thank them properly next time I go to Middle Island. Lin Yi nodded, not too disappointed. It was expected that Zhang Liju would disappear without a trace. But as long as he waited patiently, there would come a day when they would meet again. As for those two confidants of yours, I don't need to say much. You should read the letter yourself. Hong Zhong laughed and took out a letter from his sleeves. Evidently, it was Tian Chan and Sydney who asked him to bring it. Letter. Lin Yi quickly took it and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Then why didn't you give it to me together?" "I wanted to give it to you together, but who knew that you couldn't wait to read the letter before you snatched it? I didn't want to disturb you. Plus, that letter seemed more important and suspicious. If I gave it to you together, I was afraid you'd get confused." Hong Zhong shrugged. "All right." Lin Yi opened the letter in front of him. It wasn't as full as the previous one. There were only 2 thin pages, and judging from the handwriting it should be Tian Chan's. "Everything is fine." This was the first sentence at the beginning of the letter. This was something Lin Yi had expected. After all, with the powerful vice master of Middle Island, the will of heaven, looking after them, as well as Kai Zhongyang and Hou Guanqi, whoever dared to mess with them wouldn't be able to live past the second day. Other things aside, at the very least, the name of Sky Executioner was still very popular in Najima. He was someone who could become a legend just like Zhang Liju, and his strength couldn't be measured with common sense. He could easily kill a profound ascension practitioner when he was at nascent soul. Who would dare mess with such a monster? Other than that, Tian Chan also talked about the current situation of Tiandan Pavilion in the letter. Originally, before Lin Yi went to Southern Continent. Because Lin Yi would send elixirs regularly, there was no shortage of all kinds of elixirs. The business had always been booming, but since Lin Yi went to Southern Continent, this supply was suddenly cut off. The entire Tiandan Pavilion could only rely on Tian Chan to support the elixirs alone, and business suddenly declined. This couldn't be helped. Although Tian Chan could also concoct elixirs, and the quality was not bad, no matter the quality or quantity, it couldn't be compared to Lin Yi who had the pesticide cauldron. She could support Tiandan Pavilion alone, and this itself could be called a miracle. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel guilty when he saw this. He should have stocked up more elixirs before going to Southern Continent. In fact, he had already done so, but he only provided half a year's worth of elixirs. At that time, he never thought that he would be trapped in Southern Continent for so long. Not only was Lin Yi unlucky, but Tian Chan and the others also suffered. However, what made Lin Yi quite surprised was that although the business of Tiandan Pavilion had declined in the past year, it did not decline as much as he imagined. The daily turnover was still able to maintain about 60,000 spirit jades. This result was unexpected. Even if it was a lot less than the peak, it was still very exaggerated. After reading the whole letter, Lin Yi suddenly realized that there were actually 2 very key reasons why the daily turnover of Tiandan Pavilion could be maintained at 60,000 spirit jades. One was that Tian Chan and Sydney had good management skills. The 2 of them worked together. After Lin Yi's supply was cut off, Tian Chan's efforts ensured the source of elixirs for Tiandan Pavilion, while Sydney formulated a corresponding price increase strategy according to the situation that the best elixirs were getting less and less. The rarer a thing is, the greater its value. It was normal to raise the price of a supreme-grade pill no matter where it was. It was abnormal for Heavenly Dan Pavilion to sell it as a common product. Moreover, Xue Li's strategy was not only to raise the price, but also to limit the number of pills sold every day according to the last inventory. Only selling 3 best elixirs a day was a new gimmick that could attract people, and this had retained the popularity of Tiandan Pavilion to a large extent. However, just based on this point alone, he could at most guarantee that the Heavenly Dan Pavilion would not be destroyed. It was not realistic to maintain a daily income of 60,000. Hence, there was a second reason, and that was Wei Shenjin's care. Since Wei Shenjin joined Lin Yi, he would go to Tiandan Pavilion every 2 or 3 days. However, this was the result that the higher-ups of Snow Sword faction wanted. Chapter 46-21. They wanted to take this opportunity to express their goodwill to the will of heaven, so Wei Shenjin was not suspected. Instead, he was more important. Now he was the inner core deacon of Snow Sword sect. Although the position wasn't high, it was a very important springboard. Just like Kang Xiaoming in the North Island, after being the deacon of the welcoming pavilion for a while, he was now the deacon of the outer gate of the soaring pavilion. He had a lot of power. Although it was a position that Su Lingchong gave him, he still had a bright future. Wei Shenjin was the same. The position of inner core deacon was not very high, but he had the right to purchase in the inner core. Even if it was only a small part, it was definitely not a small business. There was no doubt that Wei Shenjin's elixirs were sold to Tiandan Pavilion. Anyway, Tiandan Pavilion had a small reputation now. They were fair in both quality and price. Even if others knew about it, they could not say anything. Because of this, Tiandan Pavilion's business could maintain at 60,000 a day. This was not the credit of one person, but the credit of Tian Chan, Sydney, Wei Shenjin, and everyone else, including the will of heaven. Lin Yi had planned to go to Middle Island as soon as possible. But now that he knew everything was fine, he was not worried anymore. The top priority was not to go to Middle Island, but to replenish the elixirs for Tian Chan and the others. He immediately turned to Hong Zhong and said, "Mr. Hong, I'm going to focus on refining a batch of elixirs these days. Please bring them to me through the channel of Hong's Chamber of Commerce." "No problem. Just say the word," Hong Zhong said straightforwardly. Although it was a little suspicious of him using public resources for his own personal use, as the vice president with real power, he had this power. Moreover, Lin Yi was the honorary vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. He was just borrowing the supply channel, no one could say anything. After chatting with Hong Zhong for a while, Lin Yi did not stay in Hong's Chamber of Commerce for long. After all, he had just returned to the North Island. In addition to meeting with his own people, he had to visit many other people in person. For example, Shanghai Tianhua. Strictly speaking, Lin Yi didn't have much interaction with Shangguan Tianhua, the sect master of the Soaring Pavilion. Aside from that meaningful roll call during the inner sect competition, the only other reason was because of his relationship with Shangguan Lan. As a result, Lin Yi's relationship with Shangguan Tianhua was naturally closer than that of the other higher-ups. Of course, even if these were not mentioned, Lin Yi himself also admired Shanghai Tianhua very much. The strength of this top big shot in the North Island was not the only thing that made people look up to him. The key was his bearing, and his every move gave people a sense of majesty. No matter what kind of standpoint one stood in, one would unconsciously submit to such a character. The arrogant hall master of the law enforcement hall, Ram Jie, was always arrogant and disdainful no matter who he faced. However, he only looked at Shanghai Tianhua in a different light. This was probably the reason why. Most people were born ordinary, but there were very few people who were born to shine brightly. Lin Yi believed that Shanghai Tianhua must be the latter. Don't be fooled by the fact that this big boss was cultivating his character now, but when he was young, he must have been a legendary figure who was constantly being talked about. Early this morning, Shangguan Laner is practicing calligraphy with Shangguan Tianhua. Practicing calligraphy can calm the mind and also nourish the mind. This is the homework that Shangguan Tianhua arranged for her. Even if he didn't cultivate, he had to practice calligraphy for 2 hours every morning. This was something that couldn't be changed. Shangguan Laner did not resist this, although it was also boring. However, practicing calligraphy was still better than meditating and cultivating. Moreover, she seemed to be quite talented in this aspect. Even Shanghai Tianhua, who usually did not praise others, could not help but admire her. There were also words of praise for this. Little Lan, stop for a while. Shanghai Tianhua suddenly said. Grandpa, what's wrong? Shangguan Laner asked curiously. Did the sun rise from the west today, and he could stop practicing calligraphy? You go and make tea. There will be guests coming to visit later. Shanghai Tianhua smiled slightly. In addition to his outstanding talent in calligraphy, his granddaughter's talent in tea ceremony was also the best he had ever seen in his life. It could be said that she was good in everything, except that she didn't like to cultivate, which made people feel helpless. Oh, Wu Qing or Xing Nu? Shangguan Laner asked. With the status of Shanghai Tianhua, the spiritual tea that he took out was naturally the best spiritual tea that was rarely seen in the market. However, if one really paid attention to it, there was still a difference between the two. Wu Qing was slightly lower grade and was generally used to entertain the elders of the 3 great pavilions. As for Xing Nu, it had to be at least at the level of the pavilion master of the 3 great pavilions. Shangguan Tianhua continued to write as he said, "Take a bit of the tip." Who is it this time? Shanghai Laner was suddenly shocked. It was Grandpa's most precious spiritual tea. It took a lot of effort to collect a few taels. Usually, even he was reluctant to drink it. Only when relatives and friends occasionally came and chatted happily, he would be very stingy to take out a little. Even if it was a little more, he would be distressed. Today, he was even willing to take out the tea. What the hell was going on? Little Lon, you know this person. Shanghai Tianhua deliberately kept her in suspense. I know him. Shanghai Laner tilted her head and thought for a while. She guessed, is it Grandpa Hong? No, Grandpa, you have always given him Xing Nu's tea. Is it a big shot from the outer island? In Shangguan Laner's eyes, only Hong Zhong, her old friend of many years, was qualified to let her grandfather show his heart to her in the whole North Island. Even the pavilion masters of the other 2 pavilions didn't have this blessing. After thinking about it, she could only think of the big shots in the outer island. Shangguan Tianhua chuckled, but didn't explain. Shangguan Lan had no choice but to go brew some tea, puzzled. Nearly an hour later, someone outside suddenly activated the formation. When Shangguan Lan opened the door, her mind filled with confusion, she was instantly startled. Little junior brother, how could it be you? Shanghai Laner opened her eyes inconceivably and said with surprise. Ah! Lin Yi was shocked by her strange reaction and said in confusion, what's wrong? Is it strange that I come to visit Pavilion Master Shangguan? No, it's not strange at all. But Grandpa is very strange. Shanghai Laner's expression became more and more strange. What do you mean? Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. Well, I don't know. Shanghai Laner blinked. She suddenly thought that Grandpa might not have prepared the tea for Lin Yi. But since Lin Yi happened to be here, she must not let the goodies go to others. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. First, she gave the tea to Lin Yi to drink. As for the big shots from the outer island, she would think about it later. Shanghai Laner quickly pulled Lin Yi, who was confused, to the study and said to Shanghai Tianhua, Grandpa, little junior brother is here to see you. I will go to serve you tea. Chapter 46-22. As he spoke, he winked at Lin Yi, and Shanghai Laner then left mysteriously, leaving Lin Yi, who was puzzled, and the little curly bear, who was hanging on him with ease, looked at each other. Disciple Lin Yi pays respect to Pavilion Master Shangguan. Lin Yi respectfully performed a disciple's salute to Shanghai Tianhua. Although he was a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion, and the other party was the Pavilion Master of Soaring Pavilion, the 3 pavilions of the North Island were one. Anyone who saw Shanghai Tianhua had to perform a disciple's salute. You've made a lot of progress after a trip to South Continent. Not bad. Shanghai Tianhua glanced at him, nodded slightly, and then said, Come and look at my calligraphy. What do you think? Lin Yi was a little surprised by Shanghai Tianhua's familiar attitude, and even somewhat flattered. However, he had seen a lot of things in South Continent this time, so he would not lose his composure. No matter how powerful Shanghai Tianhua was in the North Island, he was not stronger than the 5 poisons flood dragon and the giant electric eel, who were above the sea-splitting period. What's more, he was not hostile to him. Instead, he appreciated him a little. Lin Yi was so reserved because he respected him, not because he was afraid. Walking to the desk, Lin Yi was immediately attracted at first glance. What Shanghai Tianhua was writing at this time was the previous ancient tablet inscription. The content was extremely mysterious and profound. In addition, every word and every stroke on it contained the artistic conception of Shanghai Tianhua. A sense of ancient desolation came to his face, making him lose his mind unconsciously. Ordinary people might not understand it, but for people like Lin Yi, who had reached a certain realm and had an extremely strong comprehension ability, this piece of calligraphy was an extremely exquisite inheritance. If he could study and comprehend it for a long time, he might be able to comprehend some extremely exquisite martial techniques from it. I've long heard that Pavilion Master Shangwan's calligraphy is unparalleled in the world. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, it's truly an eye-opener, Lin Yi said sincerely. Hee, it's rare for you to compliment someone. Shanghai Tianhua smiled. No, I mean it. Lin Yi shook his head. Although he respected Shangwan Tianhua, with his personality, he wouldn't go around flattering others. Even the closest and most respected elders did not receive such treatment. This was due to their nature. All right, since you're speaking the truth as an elder, I have to show my gratitude. How about this? You can pick any piece of calligraphy in this study and take it away. Shanghai Tianhua said with a smile. Lin Yi's eyes suddenly lit up. The calligraphy was like the person. To some extent, being able to comprehend Shanghai Tianhua's calligraphy meant that he had the opportunity to steal from him. Of course, the premise was that his talent was high enough to be able to comprehend the essence of the concept. Although Lin Yi now had the 5 elements murderous aura in his hand, it was not a burden to have more skills. Moreover, his 5 elements murderous aura came from the 5 poison dragon. It could be used to kill enemies, but it was impossible to use it to improve his state of mind. A human trying to learn the state of mind of a beast was simply courting death. On the contrary, if he could learn something from Shanghai Tianhua, he would definitely benefit greatly in this aspect. The state of mind and strength were equally important. Especially at the nascent soul stage and above, the cultivation method gradually changed from the outside to the inside. The improvement of the state of mind was particularly important, and Shanghai Tianhua was obviously a powerhouse in this aspect. I don't dare to refuse an elder's gift. This disciple will accept it respectfully. Since the other party had taken the initiative to propose, Lin Yi would not pretend to be polite to the other party. He immediately pointed to the ancient inscription on the desk that was only half copied and said, "Then I will take this one." "You have good taste." Shanghai Tianhua could not help but laugh, shook his head and said, "This one is not good. It is to be given to someone else, and it is not finished yet. Forget it. Before you leave, ask little Lan Er to pick one for you. She is also an expert in this aspect." "Yes, thank you, Pavilion Master Shangwan." Lin Yi nodded and thought that it was really right to come this time. Shanghai Tianhua's calligraphy could not be bought outside no matter how many spiritual jades there were. The fact that he offered to give one to him showed that he really did not treat him as an outsider. Lin Yi was right. Because of his relationship with Shanghai Laner, and because of his unprecedented super talent, Shanghai Tianhua did love talents. He once wanted to accept him as a personal disciple, but after thinking about it, he did not do so in the end. Instead, he followed Ramje's model and let him be. This was the most suitable training method for people like Lin Yi. There was no master and disciple in name, but in the eyes of Shanghai Tianhua, Lin Yi's status was not much lower than that of a personal disciple. This time, he took the initiative to give the calligraphy to Lin Yi was actually a disguised guidance. As for how much Lin Yi could benefit from his calligraphy, it was Lin Yi's own business. While the two were talking, Shanghai Laner had already prepared the spiritual tea. Shanghai Tianhua immediately brought Lin Yi to his specially designed tea room. The two sat opposite each other, while Shanghai Laner and Little Curly Bear each took a seat next to them. Lin Yi only sniffed it. Before he had time to take a sip, all the pores on his whole body suddenly opened up. He felt as if he had been baptized by nature. It was not that Lin Yi had never drunk good tea. In fact, since he was no longer short of spiritual jades, he had always kept all kinds of superior spiritual tea in the space of the jade pendant. It was mainly used to entertain friends. Most of them were expensive, and some even cost tens of thousands of spiritual jades. However, compared with the spiritual tea in his cup at this moment, his so-called superior spiritual tea was simply a straw. In the secular world, there was a saying that a sip of the bejeweled nectar could prolong one's life. Lin Yi had never heard of it. After all, this was a myth made up by people. But now he had to believe that there was really such a good thing in the world that could steal the fortune of heaven and earth. This is called dew tip. It is Grandpa's darling. You can't drink it anywhere else. Shanghai Laner looked at Lin Yi's intoxicated look and laughed. Shengguan Tianhua didn't say anything, just smiled. To Lin Yi, being able to drink tea was an extremely rare pleasure, and it was the same for him as well. Every time he drank tea, his mind would become extremely clear. Although it wasn't as clear as when he was in a state of sudden enlightenment, it was still a good thing. Lin Yi gently took a sip and closed his eyes for a long time. Then he slowly said, "The essence of this tea is really rare. Even if you taste it for a year and a half, you may not be able to fully understand it. It really is a rare good tea." You also dabbled in the tea ceremony? Shanghai Tianhua's eyes lit up when he heard this. It can't be said that I dabbled in it. I don't know how to boil tea, nor do I know how to taste tea. At most, I just gobble it up and waste it. Lin Yi laughed at himself. He had actually learned the tea ceremony before, but that was the tea of the secular world. It was completely different from the spiritual tea of the heavenly stage island. Chapter 46-23. Hee, it's not a waste to say that. You didn't drink this cup of tea in vain. Shengguan Tianhua smiled faintly, then said, "When I was young, I stumbled upon this tea in the depths of an ancient forest. After that, I traveled through all the famous mountains and great rivers of the heavenly tier island, but I didn't find any more. Only in that place would a little grow every few decades. Ever since I was young, I've tasted it, but I still haven't been able to fully appreciate its flavor. It's hard to find another tea like this in the world." "I see. In that case, I really came here today," Lin Yi said and took a small sip. It was really memorable. 3 people and 1 bear sat around the table and quietly tasted the tea. At this time, even the usually active little curly bear was very quiet. Although it didn't know the tea ceremony, it could distinguish the good from the bad. The dew-tip spirit tea that Shanghai Laner specially poured for it was enough for it to digest for a while. After a full hour, when the flavor of the dew-tip spirit tea gradually faded, Shanghai Tianhua finally said again, "Tell me about what happened in South Island." Lin Yi nodded and responded. In addition to etiquette, the main purpose of his visit to Shanghai Tianhua this time was to report what he had seen and heard in South Continent. Of course, this did not refer to the trivial experience he had told others before, but the 2 far-reaching events that might even affect the future situation of Heaven Stage Island. It was true that Lin Yi was a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. In theory, no matter what happened, he should report to the higher-ups of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Unfortunately, he really didn't have a good impression of the higher-ups of Blue Cloud Pavilion. In particular, the number 1 residence was forcibly occupied, which had made most of the higher-ups of Blue Cloud Pavilion stand on the opposite side of him. In this case, if he still rushed to report to them, wasn't it shameful? On the other hand, Shanghai Tianhua, the master of Soaring Sky Pavilion, was like a half-teacher to Lin. At least, that was what the public thought. Moreover, Shanghai Tianhua treated him well. Moreover, in Lin Yi's opinion, this was also the top big shot who could best represent the North Island. The first thing is that there is a huge organization behind the Central Chamber of Commerce called the Center. They specialize in capturing gold core experts in the South Continent to conduct human experiments. Senior brother Liu Bianren and I were both captured by them, but I found an opportunity to escape. Lin Yi organized his words and said, "Yes, I already know about this. Liu Bianren has reported it before." Shanghai Tianhua nodded and muttered, "Whether it's the way this Central Chamber of Commerce rose to prominence or the ability to connect with the secular world, it's all because of this Central Chamber of Commerce." Both are very suspicious, but we still don't know its intentions. There are no signs of direct conflict, so we can only investigate in secret. Someone is already doing this, and I believe it's not just us. Other sects and forces are probably doing the same thing. Someone is doing it? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. If there was no accident, this task must have fallen on Ram Jie of the Law Enforcement Hall. Looking at the 3 pavilions of the North Island, except for the big shots at the pavilion master level, only the first person of the new generation could have the strength and means to explore the details of the center. The second thing, the spirit beasts of the South Island are ready to expand, or should be expanding already. They decided to include the surrounding sea area of the South Continent into their territory. All human cultivators have to pay taxes to them to ensure their safety, Lin Yi continued. Is there such a thing? Shanghai Tianhua's expression suddenly changed. What? Haven't you received this kind of tip-off before? Lin Yi couldn't help feeling a little strange. It had been at least half a year since he mistakenly broke into the Spirit Beast Conference. It was reasonable to say that they should have taken action long ago. Could it be that something happened inside the Spirit Beasts? No, there's no such news. However, although our 3 pavilions have also set up intelligence points in the South Continent Sea area, the distance is long after all, and the intelligence efficiency has always been low. If something really happens, it's not impossible for the intelligence points to be paralyzed for a while. Shanghai Tianhua frowned slightly, and then asked in confusion, "This is the internal secret of the Spirit Beasts, right? How do you know this news?" "I accidentally entered the hinterland of the South Island because I was chased by the old sect of Shishan. I happened to encounter them holding a Spirit Beast conference, so I accidentally heard this news. At that time, the crowd was excited, and all the Spirit Beasts were stirred up. If I'm not mistaken, they will definitely carry out this matter. It's just a matter of time," Lin Yi said firmly. "Well, since the disappearance of the Spirit Beast King, the Spirit Beasts have indeed been a little restless. Vermilion Bird should be the one in charge now, right?" Shanghai Tianhua asked. "That's right." Lin Yi nodded, but he did not go into further detail about the current situation of the Spirit Beasts. Firstly, it was not necessary at the moment, and secondly, it was the Spirit Beasts matter after all. He still had to consider the feelings of the ghost. Okay, although this matter can't be said to have any impact on the North Island for the time being, if the Spirit Beasts really do this, they won't be satisfied with this. When the time comes, they will definitely take further action. Just in case, we have to treat this matter carefully. On behalf of the 3 pavilions in the North Island, I will first record your merit. Shanghai Tianhua pondered. You're too serious. No matter what, I'm still a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. It's my duty to report these matters, so there's no merit to be said. Lin Yi shook his head. It's good that you have this awareness, but what should be yours will be yours. Shanghai Tianhua smiled indifferently and suddenly asked with interest, I heard from Little Lon, that you've already participated in the selection of the East Continent's Morning Star Academy in the South Continent, but you don't want to go. This time, seeing that Lin Yi's strength had been reborn, Shanghai Tianhua originally intended to recommend him to go to the East Continent. After all, after Ramjia, this was the disciple of the 3 pavilions that he was most optimistic about. In the end, he heard about this matter from Shanghai Lena. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, glanced at Shanghai Laner, and nodded. Well, I don't have this thought for the time being, but when the time comes, I will definitely go to the East Continent. Otherwise, I'll be a frog in a well. That's good. I thought you were the same as Ramjia, looking down on the East Continent like weeds. Shanghai Tianhua paused and said earnestly, although the academies in the East Continent are full of geniuses, the atmosphere in the academies is generally too impetuous. For people like you and Ramjia, it's not strange that you look down on those so-called geniuses. However, the East Continent is, after all, the pinnacle of the entire 5 major islands in the heaven stage. There are many experts, hidden dragons, and crouching tigers. Young people should still have a chance to try their luck. Chapter 46-24. After reporting these 2 matters, Lin Yi had nothing else to say. They were either too trivial or related to his core secrets. Even though he had a good impression of Shangguan Tianhua, and even though he had a relationship with Shangguan Laner, their relationship was not close enough for him to confide in him. Novel seeing that Lin Yi did not continue to speak, Shangguan Tianhua did not ask more and immediately changed the topic. What do you think of the 3 pavilions of the North Island now? Lin Yi thought for a while and answered with 4 words, talented people are coming out in large numbers. You're not wrong. Since you joined the welcoming pavilion, there have been many outstanding people in the 3 pavilions in the past 2 years. Do you know that the old guys in the Elder Council have given you a code name? Shengguan Tianhua laughed. What code name? Lin Yi asked in surprise. The Golden Generation, Shengguan Tianhua said with a smile. Ugh. Lin Yi was speechless. There was even a code name. The elders in the Elder Council were really free. Although it's exaggerated, it's not too outrageous. Your batch of newcomers is already very outstanding. In addition to you, Xiao Ran and Meng Tong are also not bad. Su Lingchong's strength just happened to improve by leaps and bounds in the past 2 years, so he is also the representative of your golden generation. There are also people like Yu Zhe who all look good. There's also someone called Ma Dang Chong, who has been very eye-catching recently. Do you think these people are qualified to be part of the golden generation? Shengguan Tianhua named one by one. The fact that he could remember the names of these people was already an affirmation of their strength. In the past, although 1 or 2 amazing people would appear from time to time in the 3 pavilions, there would never be a situation like this where all of a sudden, especially someone at Lin Yi's level. It was rare to see someone like this in hundreds of years. Read the full text. Because of the sudden emergence of the golden generation, most people were very optimistic about the prospects of the 3 pavilions of the North Island. When the golden generation really grew up, the 3 pavilions of the North Island would be revitalized again. Among these people, I only know about Xiao Ran's background. He was indeed a rare talent, and he had a well-developed hairstyle. As for the others, I don't know much about them. Maybe it's because of some kind of fortuitous encounter, but I always feel that their strength is a little strange. Lin Yi commented truthfully. Huh, aren't you the same? Shengguan Tianhua couldn't help but laugh. It feels completely different when it's on me and when it's on someone else. Maybe it's just my imagination, Lin Yi said with a shrug. Shengguan Tianhua smiled non-committally. At this time, the taste of the tea had become extremely light. When drinking tea, one should know when to stop. Furthermore, he was obviously reluctant to reveal his heart again. This was his favorite. He immediately said to Shengguan Laner, Little Lan, take Lin Yi to the study and pick a piece of calligraphy. Shengguan Laner immediately pulled Lin Yi and ran into the study. A moment later, Lin Yi came out with a strange expression. He carried a long and exquisite scroll on his back. He bowed deeply to Shengguan Tianhua and said, Thank you for your kindness, Pavilion Master. This disciple will take his leave first. You can come often in the future. There aren't many people who can make this old man reveal his heart. You're one of them. Shengguan Tianhua nodded lightly. Then he added, Of course, it's not every time. There aren't many of these left. Yes, I have your words. This disciple will definitely not be polite with you. Lin Yi smiled, and then was easily sent out of the door by Shengguan Laner and Little Curly Bear. When Shengguan Laner came back after sending Lin Yi off, Shengguan Tianhua saw her sneaky and guilty look. He immediately became suspicious and asked, Little Lan, which piece of calligraphy did you choose for him? It's that mantra. Shengguan Laner said vaguely, avoiding his gaze. What mantra? Grandpa has written more than a dozen mantras. Which one did you choose? Shengguan Tianhua suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. It's the one that gives people a headache. Shengguan Laner pouted. Gives people a headache? Shengguan Tianhua felt more and more uneasy. He suddenly trembled and said in shock, Little Lan, you didn't give him the 10,000 words mantra, did you? Shengguan Laner shrunk her neck and nodded. When Shengguan Tianhua heard this, he almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, That's our Shengguan family's ancestral knowledge, not to mention a whole 10,000 words. Grandpa worked hard for an entire month to copy it down. You said yourself that you can choose as you wish from the study. You are the Soaring Sky Pavilion's Pavilion Master. You won't go back on your word, right? Shengguan Laner muttered. Go back on my word? How can I go back on my word when I've already given it away? Shengguan Tianhua shook his head speechlessly. He could only shake his head and sigh, It's true that girls are extroverted. We haven't done anything yet, and you're already thinking of ways to trick your own grandfather. When did I trick you? Shangguan Laner suddenly blushed a little. She ran over and hugged Shangguan Tianhua's arm and said coquettishly, "Little junior brother isn't an outsider. It doesn't matter if I give him the 10,000 words mantra. Okay, he's not an outsider." Shangguan Tianhua rubbed his granddaughter's head and said with emotion, "To be honest, this child is really extraordinary. I thought he would be the next Ram Jia. I didn't expect that I still underestimated him after seeing him today. I regret not accepting him as a disciple. It's not too late now. Anyway, little junior brother hasn't formally become a disciple yet. Should I go and tell him now?" Shangguan Laner's eyes lit up. If Lin Yi could become her grandfather's disciple, their relationship would be even closer. Of course, she was happy to see it happen. There's no need for that. I'm just saying, if Lin Yi really becomes my disciple, it won't be a good thing for him. At least, I can't help him reach the nascent soul stage in 2 years. The only thing I can do now is to give him some pointers. Shangguan Tianhua shook his head slightly. That's right. Oh, okay. Shangguan Laner couldn't help but be a little disappointed. Suddenly, she rolled her eyes and asked, "Grandfather, are you preparing this for little junior brother?" Shangguan Tianhua nodded. Really? How could you be willing to let little junior brother drink the dew? Shangguan Laner suddenly became more and more surprised. There were only a few people in the world who could make her grandfather take out the dew. No matter how she thought about it, she didn't think that little junior brother had this qualification. After all, even Ram Jia had never received such treatment. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Since little Shangguan Laner is so eager to let him drink the dew, what can I say? Shangguan Tianhua looked at Shangguan Laner mischievously and said with a smile. Chapter 46-25. Grandpa, what are you talking about? Shanghai Laner suddenly blushed. She turned around and ran away in embarrassment. After a while, she came back with a small wooden box in her hand. She handed it to Shanghai Tianhua and said, "This is a gift from little junior brother. You can open it and see for yourself." Shanghai Tianhua opened the wooden box. There were 2 things inside. One was an exquisite spirit jade bottle, and the other was wrapped in a red cloth. Shanghai Tianhua's eyes suddenly lit up. Star ink milk? Infant ginseng? This boy is really extravagant. Whether it was the star ink milk or the infant ginseng, they were both good things that were hard to find in the world. This was not because Shanghai Tianhua's level was high. Even if it was useless to him, he could always give it to others. Not to mention that the infant ginseng and star ink milk could be used to refine higher-level pills. The value of Lin Yi's return this time was probably not below his due sharp spirit tea. This is not a problem for little junior brother. Shanghai Laner proudly raised her chin. Let's see how far he can go in the future. All right, little Lon. Since you've given him the 10,000 character mantra, you should make a new copy for yourself. This is our Shangguan family's heirloom. We can't just disappear just like that. Shangguan Tianhua looked at his granddaughter with an amused look on his face. An entire 10,000 words. Grandpa, are you joking? Shanghai Laner suddenly felt bad. I'm not joking. This important task will be handed over to you. Write it slowly. Although Shanghai Tianhua had a smile on his face, his tone was not negotiable. Oh. Shanghai Laner was completely listless. She had no choice but to walk towards the study room. 10,000 words incantation? How long would it take to write it? All right, let this girl sharpen her temperament. Shanghai Tianhua smiled and looked back at the things Lin Yi had given him. He couldn't help but recall what Lin Yi had just said. He suddenly snapped his fingers and said, "Find out the information about Su Lingchong and the group of people gathered under him. Arrange for people to keep an eye on them." Lin Yi felt refreshed as he walked out of Hualan House. It wasn't just because he had drunk dew point, but also because he had obtained the 10,000 words mantra. He had only taken a cursory look at it, and he knew that it wasn't something simple. He would find time to study it in the future, and he believed that he would gain something. Returning to Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lin Yi had planned to immediately start refining, but he didn't expect that there would be someone waiting outside the courtyard. This person was none other than Clear Cloud Pavilion's eldest senior brother, Jia Mufan. "Brother Jia, how have you been?" Lin Yi cupped his hands in greeting from afar. "Junior brother Lin, how have you been? You've made me wait for a long time." Jia Mufan welcomed him with a smile. This was the truth. This time, he came to visit Lin Yi as soon as the sun rose. Who would have thought that Lin Yi was not at home last night? As the dignified senior brother who was in charge of the inner sanctum, he had to wait outside for 4 hours. This could be considered as a strange anecdote. "Oh, does senior brother Jia need something from me? Come, this way please." Lin Yi quickly invited Jia Mufan into his residence. "Junior brother Lin, you're the most dazzling genius of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. You've been gone for so long. As your senior brother, it's only right for me to come and take a look. What do you think?" Jia Mufan smiled. In fact, with Lin Yi's current strength and status, it was impossible for him to win. When Jia Mufan found out that he had returned, especially after learning that he had crippled a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator with one move, he had planned to rush over as soon as possible yesterday. However, Lin Yi and the others were busy with the gathering. Moreover, they hadn't sent him an invitation, so he had tactfully postponed it until today. "I've troubled you, senior brother Jia. My mission this time was delayed because you helped me cancel it. Moreover, senior brother Lu and senior brother Ku also said that when they had a conflict with Ma Daoqiang, it was all thanks to senior brother Jia's help. I'll remember this favor on their behalf," Lin Yi said seriously. As he spoke, Lin Yi brewed some spiritual tea. Although it wasn't as professional as Shanghai Laner's and it wasn't a rare spiritual tea like Lu Bianren's, it was still a high-grade spiritual tea. It was refreshing to drink. Jia Mufan shook his head. "Junior brother Lin, you're exaggerating. Lu Bianren and the others are your senior brothers, but they're also my junior brothers. Since I happened to come across this matter, I naturally had to step in and stop it. Otherwise, as the senior brother in charge of the inner sect, I'll be labeled as an incompetent person. No matter what, I have to thank you, senior brother Jia. It's Blue Cloud Pavilion's fortune to have an inner sect steward like you as our senior brother." Lin smiled. There were only a few people in the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion's upper echelons that he liked, and Jia Mufan was one of them. "Junior brother Lin, based on what you've said, I'll do my best in the future." Jia Mufan laughed. "Speaking of which, junior brother Lin, what do you plan to do next?" "Plans?" Lin Yi looked at Jia Mufan in confusion. "I mean, are you interested in taking up a position like the inner sect steward's second senior brother or something? After all, with great power comes great responsibility," Jia Mufan said meaningfully. "Inner sect steward's second senior brother?" Lin Yi was stunned when he heard that. He asked curiously, "Isn't that Ma Daoqiang's position?" "He's not suitable." Jia Mufan said straightforwardly, "Before you came back, no one could object to him taking this position. But now, how can he still have the face to continue taking this position?" "He retreated?" Lin Yi immediately understood. This was actually the same as when he fought for the inner sect's #1 residence. Up until now, he didn't see the Blue Cloud Pavilion's upper echelons come out to fart. They all pretended to be deaf and mute about it. Those so-called upper echelons of Blue Cloud Pavilion who supported Ma Daoqiang had probably changed their stance after learning about what happened yesterday. They were really fence-sitters. To tell you the truth, I made a proposal to the Blue Cloud Pavilion's Elders Guild yesterday to let junior brother Lin be the inner sect steward's second senior brother. In the end, the Elders Guild unanimously approved it. Jia Mufan's tone carried a trace of unconcealable sarcasm. Recalling the behavior of those Blue Cloud Pavilion elders at that time, they were really clowns. They were the ones who jumped up and down to take up the position. Now, they were also the ones who threw stones at Lin Yi when he was down. With such a group of people occupying the upper echelons, it would be really intolerable if the Blue Cloud Pavilion could still prosper. Lin Yi was speechless when he heard that. These people took advantage of his absence to snatch the #1 residence. He hadn't even settled the score with them yet, but they were already so eager to be fence-sitters. Not bad. Although I know that letting junior brother Lin take this position is definitely a waste of your talent. With your ability, this is also a springboard for transition. Piao Tianwen said. Chapter 46-26. You'll be able to soar through the skies in the future, and this step is just for experience. What do you think, junior brother Lin? Jia Mufan saw that Lin didn't seem interested and decided to take the role of persuader. I appreciate senior brother Jia's good intentions. I heard that Xiao Ran was able to become the second senior brother of the outer court steward because of senior brother Jia's efforts. You have done your best for all of us, and I am extremely grateful. Lin Yi thanked him sincerely. Then he shook his head and said, but I think I'd better forget about being the second senior brother in charge of the inner sect. You should know that I don't really like these things. It's too troublesome to be entangled with mundane affairs. Lin Yi had a very clear goal for his future development. Moreover, his vision had never been limited to Blue Cloud Pavilion. Although the position of the second senior brother in charge of the inner sect seemed to be good, there would definitely be all kinds of trivial matters. At that time, a lot of energy would be wasted. If he had the time, he might as well focus on his cultivation. I understand. But this is actually the pavilion master's idea. It's not good for me to refuse directly. Otherwise, it would seem that there's some conflict between me and junior brother Lin, Jia Mufan said with a bitter smile. I see. But I really don't have this intention. Lin Yi paused and then suggested, as far as I know, although senior brother Lu Bianren's strength is a little weak, he's still a senior in Blue Cloud Pavilion with a lot of experience. Moreover, he's experienced in various important positions. As far as I know, he's going to have a breakthrough soon. Why don't you consider him? Jia Mufan was a little hesitant. Lu Bianren's qualifications were indeed not bad. However, with his current strength, he obviously did not meet the requirements to be the second senior brother in charge of the inner sect. Any inner sect disciple was in the golden core stage. In theory, to be the second senior brother in charge of the inner sect, one had to be at least in the late golden core stage. However, Lu Bianren was only in the middle golden core stage. Even if he was about to make a breakthrough, he was only at the peak of the middle golden core stage. He was still a long way from reaching the minimum threshold. Given Lin Yi's current strength and status, it was impossible for him to win. If the position of second senior brother of the inner court steward fell into his hands, no one would dare to say anything. However, if it was Lu Bianren, perhaps the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion Elders Guild would be in an uproar, not to mention those ambitious disciples. However, since this was Lin Yi's intention, Jia Mufan couldn't refuse directly. He could only say, all right, then I'll report this matter to Pavilion Master Yu and put Lu Bianren on the list of key disciples to be groomed. The position of second senior brother can be reserved for him. But before that, junior brother Lin needs you to make the transition, because only after you step down from this position can you nominate Lu Bianren. That way, you can stop everyone's mouths and prevent junior brother Lu from suffering too much resistance. All right. Lin Yi thought about it and agreed. He knew that this matter was a little difficult. Even if Lu Bianren was listed as a candidate, if he didn't hold the position in his hands first and allowed someone else to snatch it away, Lu Bianren wouldn't give up the position in the future. If that happened, Lu Bianren wouldn't know how long he would have to wait. Jia Mufan heaved a sigh of relief. If Lin Yi didn't want to be the second senior brother of the inner court steward, it wouldn't matter if he couldn't complete the orders of Yu Xingyang and the Blue Cloud Pavilion Elders Guild. The key was that he would be on tenterhooks. What if the reason why Lin Yi didn't like the second senior brother of the inner court steward was because he liked the eldest senior brother of the inner court steward? Jia Mufan wasn't afraid of others, but he really didn't have the slightest confidence when facing a super genius like Lin Yi. This was the next Ramjia. No matter how pretentious Jia Mufan was, he wouldn't be able to stop Lin Yi's footsteps. Junior brother Lin, you don't like to be entangled in miscellaneous matters. Actually, you don't have to worry about this. You can leave all the miscellaneous matters to me. As for junior brother Lin, you can stay the same as before. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Jia Mufan said with a smile. Then I'll have to trouble senior brother Jia. Lin Yi nodded. Ha, it's no trouble at all. I've always been a workaholic. I used to be the second senior brother of the inner court steward for a long time. These matters are already a walk in the park for me. Jia Mufan smiled and said frankly, actually, it's a blessing for me that junior brother Lin is willing to let go. You should know that a big reason for setting up the position of the second senior brother of the inner court steward is to check and balance me, the eldest senior brother of the inner court steward. Previously, letting an arrogant person like Ma Daiqiang sit on that position really gave me a headache. When Lin Yi heard that, he immediately laughed. Ma Daiqiang was a person who thought highly of himself. Perhaps he didn't even take Jia Mufan seriously from the start. With such a person going against him in everything, especially when Jia Mufan was the highly anticipated rookie king, no one in Jia Mufan's position would feel good no matter who it was. However, Lin Yi could also see that Jia Mufan was quite obsessed with power, but he didn't care about it at all. It could be said that they were two extremes, but he didn't have any ill feelings towards Jia Mufan because of this. Jia Mufan was actually very good at conducting himself. It wasn't a bad thing for Lin Yi to cooperate with him. It was a pleasant cooperation. After talking about business, Jia Mufan chatted for a while and then got up to leave. Lin Yi politely sent him out and then began his closed-door training. This time, the closed-door training was not for cultivation, but purely for refining elixirs. Not only was the Tiandan Pavilion in urgent need of elixirs, but even the people around Lin Yi also needed it. For example, Lu Bianren was indeed on the verge of breaking through, but without the help of the Jindan Golden Elixir, who knew how long he would be stuck in the bottleneck. With previous experience, refining Jindan Golden Elixir and some other elixirs, even the Gathering's Soul Golden Elixir, was already a piece of cake for Lin. In 5 days, the total number of various elixirs produced finally reached 3 digits, and more than 80% of them were of the best quality. He couldn't help but sigh. The magic pesticide cauldron was really a magical tool for refining elixirs. After finishing the closed-door training, Lin Yi immediately gathered Lu Bianren and the others together. In public, he distributed some elixirs to Lu Bianren for safekeeping. After all, he was the most powerful among them and had always been the most reliable. Lin Yi decided to let Lu Bianren distribute these elixirs on time according to their needs. Otherwise, if they were directly distributed to each of them, with Qiao Hongcai's impatience, she might turn around and eat them directly. In fact, the reason why Lin Yi did this was that he had learned a lesson. In the past 2 years, he hadn't heard from anyone in the South Island, so everyone could only rely on themselves. Although their strength was much faster than that of ordinary people, they still lacked the help of elixirs after all. Chapter 46-27. Especially the best quality elixirs that couldn't be bought on the market, which caused the improvement of everyone's strength to be far less obvious than Lin Yi had expected. With everyone's qualifications, if Lin Yi was here in the past 2 years, Xiao Ran and the others would probably have been masters of the Golden Core stage. How could they still be lingering in the foundation establishment stage like now? Lin Yi himself was already at the peak of the early nascent soul stage, and the gap in strength was too big. Not only could these little brothers not be his right-hand men, but they would also become a burden. So, no matter what, Lin Yi had to think of a way to raise everyone's strength as soon as possible, and one of the things he had to do was to ensure a sufficient supply of elixirs. Even when Lin Yi wasn't here, this couldn't be cut off. After arranging everyone, the next thing Lin Yi had to do was to go to Zhongdao. Although the elixirs could be sent by Hangzhong, Lin Yi felt that it was necessary to go in person. On one hand, he might have the opportunity to see Zhang Liju, and on the other hand, it was time to see Tian Chan in Sydney. After making up his mind, Lin Yi first went to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce and asked Hangzhong to send the elixirs first. At the same time, he asked for a Chamber of Commerce pass. With this thing, flying spirit beasts could take off and land at the Zhongdao Pier. Although they still couldn't enter the sky above Zhongdao, it was much more convenient. After coming out of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi planned to go to the spirit beast farm. This was the place where the 3 pavilions specially trained spirit beasts. Now, the spirit bird had become the overlord of this spirit beast farm, and its life was quite comfortable. Although it didn't have a strong racial talent, it couldn't stand its high level. There were only a few spirit beasts of the nascent soul stage in the entire North Island spirit beast farm. If any spirit beast dared to cause trouble for it, it could use its speed to make the other party dizzy. Who could afford to provoke it? But before that, Lin Yi had to go to see Laner first to say goodbye to her, and at the same time, he had to give her the elixirs he had just refined. After all, she was also one of his people. It was her business if she had a good background, but Lin Yi couldn't leave her out of it. However, what Lin Yi did not expect was that he would meet Laner on the way. She smiled and said hello from afar. Hey? What a coincidence, I was just about to look for you. Hehe, I was just about to look for you. Shengguan Laner was overjoyed when she saw Lin Yi. She skipped over and couldn't hide the joy on her face. Little junior brother, you're going to work again. Work? Lin Yi was stunned. Have you forgotten what your position is? Shengguan Laner rolled her eyes at him. Position? The second senior brother in charge of the Blue Cloud Pavilion's inner court? Lin Yi asked curiously. What? You're the Island Flower's personal expert, have you forgotten? Shengguan Laner pouted. Puff. Lin Yi burst into laughter. Then he remembered that when Ning Xuefei came to the North Island, Shanghai Tianhua had given him the position of reception messenger. To put it bluntly, he was the 2 women's personal bodyguard. But this thing had passed. It was almost 2 years ago. Did this temporary position, which was obviously a joke, still count? Well, little junior brother, pack up quickly and follow me to West Island to protect the flower. Shengguan Laner couldn't wait to announce. West Island? Protect the flower? Lin Yi was more and more confused. Yes, it's Ning Xuefei's birthday soon. Shengguan Laner said excitedly, and then complained, because of you, I didn't hear from her before. I didn't go to her birthday last year, but I have to go this year. Little junior brother, you're back. Hehe, God is helping me. So that's how it is. Well, I have nothing to pack. When are we leaving? Lin Yi immediately nodded and agreed. He had a good relationship with Ning Xuefei. Since Shanghai Laner had mentioned it, it didn't matter if he agreed. Anyway, there was nothing urgent in Middle Island for the time being. He could go there after coming back from West Island. If it was just a birthday party, it shouldn't take too much time. It's today. After Shanghai Laner finished speaking, she took Lin Yi to Hualan House. Lin Yi had nothing to pack, but she was different. She had prepared a lot of birthday gifts for Ning Xuefei, not to mention a lot of her own things. Of course, these things needed to be carried by Lin Yi, a master of protecting the flower. When they arrived at Hualan House, Lin Yi could only do the hard work helplessly. When Shanghai Tianhua learned that Lin Yi was willing to protect her, he certainly had no objection. He just smiled and said a few words, then ran to the study to write, as if he was not worried about his granddaughter going to West Island at all. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel strange. Did he have 100% trust in him, or did he arrange other means of protection? Shanghai Laner was the little princess of North Island. If she went to West Island with only him to protect her, it didn't seem right, right? It wasn't until Shanghai Laner said goodbye to Shanghai Tianhua that Shanghai Tianhua solved Lin Yi's doubts. This time, Shanghai Laner's accompanying master, although he was the only one on the surface, there were 2 extremely powerful figures in both strength and status. One of them was Shanghai Tianhua's trusted subordinate, Lan Tiefu, the eldest senior brother in charge of the inner core of Soaring Pavilion. The other one was quite familiar to Lin Yi, Ram Jia, the master of Law Enforcement Hall. Although there were only 3 people on the surface and in the dark, and they looked very weak, any one of them was a powerful figure who could make the whole 3 pavilions of North Island tremble, especially Ram Jia, who was recognized as a person who would definitely reach the top of North Island in the future. No wonder Shanghai Tianhua was so at ease. With the protection of the 3 of them, if Shanghai Laner could still have an accident, it could only prove one thing. A force was going to wage a full-scale war against North Island. Of course, This kind of thing was impossible. Although the 3 pavilions of North Island had never been strong, they dominated an island after all. No matter how powerful the force was, if they wanted to challenge it, they had to think it over first. After saying goodbye to Shanghai Tianhua, they immediately set off from Walanju and went to the pier of North Island. Shanghai Laner walked in the front, her steps light and cheerful, followed by little Curly Bear, who dragged a giant pair of scissors and looked around unkindly from time to time, looking like a loyal lackey protecting his master. The last one was Lin Yi, who looked helpless, with all kinds of bags piled up into a hill. Looking at his miserable condition, he was not a master of flower protection, but a ready-made free coolie. As for the other 2 bodyguards, they'd said that they'd be protecting Lin Yi from the shadows, and naturally wouldn't appear in sight. Otherwise, Lin Yi's life would have been a little easier. At least he'd have 2 more bags to carry. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.